Chapter 647. Chapter 647. 4-Element Cycle Array. When speaking of a sect's power, experts were valued, granted, but a formation, a combination of forces resulting in power beyond the sum of its part, was even more sought after. Thus Double Dragon Gathering came with an exception. The formation took priority to observe its pros and cons. Double Dragon Gathering had a formation as well. For scheming demons and impermanence 5 all practiced such types of arts. A pity they did not make the cut for Double Dragon Gathering. And this was Mystical Heaven Sect's sole chance for a comeback, a formation. Declare your formation. The judge turned to Elder Yun. Elder Yun bowed and presented a jade slip. This is the 4-element cycle array the sect leader had worked with hundreds of elders and venerable to create. It harnesses the power of the world, drawing on the elements to form a flawless domain in all directions. It requires 4 maidens of special and different constitutions to practice it, to harness the primal chaos and combine yin and yang. When they join hands, nothing can stop them. I await your orders, Exalted. The judge vanished and reappeared high above on the stands, presenting the jade slip with a bow. Exalted Hay Ran inspected it first, then gave it to Exalted by May with a smile. How curious, it's worth a look. If the might of the formation is adequate, it will be Western Land's fortune. Exalted by May nodded. The judge returned to the arena and flicked his hand. Mystical Heaven Sect is to prepare the formation. Demon Scheming Sect, present your fighters. Chu Qingqing stepped on the stage with Permafrost. Shui Ruohua took Danner and a girl in blue after her, all holding swords glinting in a different light. Fiend Yang's eyes shook, gnashing his teeth and turning around to Taiying, Kuei Gang and Yuer. What a blunder. It never occurred to me they'd have a formation. Double Dragon Gathering is the most susceptible to formations that can boost one's power. As long as a sect comes up with one, the Exalted will allow it. While the drawing of numbers determined the formation's opponents, coming forward to test it out. This was like a 4-on-4 battle. But unlike a disorganized team of 4, a formation would crush the opposition. Especially since they had Wuxia as the sole fighter in the ethereal stage, while the rest were in the radiant stage. Even a soul battle would be uncertain of success, now even more so. If the other side won this, they'd get 8 points, placing them right next to them at a tie. O Yun, has this been your plan all along? Fiend Yang flared his nostrils and spat. Wuxia, it's all on you now. Show no mercy. No worry, going easy isn't in my vocabulary. Hi. Wuxia's eyes glinted an eerie green, taking the other 3 radiant stage teammates on the stage. Cupping her hands, Shui Ruohua stepped out. It was our fault last time and I understand your resentment. But you killed 2 of our fellow disciples. Now you're begging for mercy, ingrates? It's a little late for that. Wuxia cut her off with little care. Shui Ruohua was about to continue when Chu Qingqing said, Senior Sister Ruohua, it's fine. In any case, fighting in the Double Dragon Gathering is unavoidable, regardless of grudges. Haha, you're not Steward Zhuo's old friend for nothing. So you do get it. Though can I not go easy on you as well? Wuxia mocked. Watching Zhuo Fan from afar with his stern and unfazed expression, Chu Qingqing chuckled. You're afraid of him? It's fine, we already decided that we each have our own life and live with no remorse. Wuxia peeked at Zhuo Fan and eased up, seeing his uncaring attitude. Doesn't look like he gives much damn about this chick. That suits me just fine. Wuxia snickered. Hope you won't hold it against me for striking the fairer sex. Wuxia's aura exploded with the might of the 3rd layer ethereal stage as a light green miasma shot for the girls. It's his soul attack. Get in formation. Shui Ruohua cried, then Chu Qingqing and the rest gathered around, holding their blades pointing downward as their edges flicked in a bizarre light show. With a humming sound, a barrier formed on the spot. The relentless force slammed into the barrier, yet it was akin to a breeze caressing a still lake, merely causing it to ripple. Wuxia was bug-eyed, not expecting a formation so simple to take on a soul attack. The crowd was just as astonished. It was common knowledge a radiant stage expert was nothing to an ethereal stage expert, yet to still fight back was more than a little bizarre. Exalted Double Dragons were impressed. This combination art has some value. Amidst all the shock the people felt, they failed to notice Zhuo's face tensing the instant Wuxia's soul attack struck. He leaned forward and a golden halo flashed in his right eye, ready to come to the rescue. The instant he saw them fine and Chu Qingqing bore the same calmness, he eased up. No matter what he said before Double Dragon Manor, that he and Chu Qingqing had broken all ties, His heart could not bear it to see her suffer. The dissonance had his mind in a serious battle to follow his lone path or, damn Wuxia, he went for the kill. Zhuofan's thoughts switched to Wuxia glaring at him. Change formation to sword cycle. The four girls split up, now standing in four positions and their swords shining. Strange energy came from around them, linking them together. Chu Qingqing was the first to attack, going after Wuxia 10 meters away. The coldness of her permafrost thickened with every step. Wuxia's heart tense, feeling increasing danger, overwhelmed from shock. The four of them together are a threat to me? No way. He was in the ethereal stage. The fact the girls could take on a soul attack in the radiant stage even with the formation, it was already praiseworthy. But threaten him? His instinct could not have been lying to him though, as his brow got more sweaty with the increasing danger. Profound ranked martial art, blight. Wuxia struck a palm at the four girls, unleashing an all-encompassing thick green cloud in the form of a tornado as it made its way for them. It also contained his soul power. If it hit, the girls were done for. Zhuofan tensed once again, but Chu Qingqing's icy eyes restored his peace of mind. This attack won't work on them. Chu Qingqing shouted and the other girls pointed their swords at her. 3 rays of light shot into her body and her permafrost shine grew many times over. Elements combine, moon-cutting cold edge. Whoosh! Chu Qingqing's slash released all its frigid power into the green tornado. With a resounding explosion, the green tornado was split apart, the frigid wave continuing unmarred for Wuxia. Wuxia was stumped that the four girls could attack him. He was so caught up in the moment that all he could do was resist the sword strike. Bam! Wuxia was flying, blood trailing behind him, and his hands now had a layer of ice on them. On impact, the frigid strike exploded around as well, damaging his 3 teammates. They had no chance as they got flung out of the stage and out of the fight. Fiend Yang held his head in helplessness. They knew the trio was useless, but there had to be a limit as to how much that was. It was fine even if they ended up as mere bystanders to Wuxia and the girls' fight, but get taken out by the aftershock? Talk about humiliation. This just proved the formation was deadly, bridging the gap between the radiant stage and the ethereal stage. Fiend Yang patted Zhuofan's shoulder. It would have been best if you were there. Thank God I am not. Zhuofan glanced at Chu Qingqing and chuckled. Fiend Yang picked up on it and his face fell. He pressed hard on his shoulder while cursing, "You infatuated brat, now I see it is best you didn't go up there, or you'd thrown in the match by now." The audience witnessed this impressive display with a gaped mouth. Exalted Double Dragon nodded as well, intrigued. The Double Dragon Manners candidates list came out once more. Only Wuxia picked himself off the floor with a pissed look. Chapter 648. Chapter 648. Encompassing Poison Net. The 4-element cycle array blends primal chaos and the elements, excelling in both offense and defense. Even an ethereal stage expert's soul attack will only get neutralized in the cycle's power. It's truly mystical. Such fortune upon Mystical Heaven sect, who is a lower 3 sect, to create such a wondrous formation, ha ha ha, Wu Qingqiu praised. Yan Mo disdained, the formation is fancy enough, but so are its requirements. Not just anyone can use it. The leader must have the rare primal spirit constitution. Shui Ruohua has a metal element body, the girl in red has a fire element body, and the one in blue wood. Then, with the heavy and imposing earth element in the middle, heaven and earth become one, releasing such a natural and devastating power. Giving it to some average people, the elements won't combine and the formation would crumble. True, the formation had some harsh conditions, unsuited for everyone and ill-equipped to help a sect rise to power. Nevertheless, to those 4, it is a sharp weapon they chose to use to enter Double Dragon Manor. Wu Qingqiu nodded, then pointed out Chu Qingqing, "You mean she is the one with the water element? Why does it feel right and wrong at the same time? Metal endears water, water endears wood. The water element body can at best connect with 2 people, so why does she look to be the core of the formation? Everyone's power, even the condensed power of Earth, is focused within her." Yan Mo sneered, mocking Wu Qingqiu. "Is that all the amazing best talent in Western lands amounts to? Don't you see it?" "See what? Wait, you do see something?" Wu Qingqiu raised an eyebrow. With a smug grin, Yan Mo nodded. "Of course, the girl has no water element body but the empty spirit body. She can use all elemental cultivation methods. She only practiced a water cultivation method just so it would match the formation. The legendary supporting constitution, empty spirit body?" Wu Qingqiu stared hard at her, shocked beyond belief. He sighed after a pause, I see. I was wondering why the formation was so strong. It was because of her. With the rumored empty spirit body, she could transform all kinds of different energy types. It is the closest constitution to the primal chaos. It's a real miracle such an amazing physique came from a tiny lower 3 sect. She would be the most sought-after disciple by all the leaders in any sect. Yilin nodded, but Yilin smiled, a rare body indeed but weak still. To lone wolves like us, she's just as average as the next person. Once she gets a little stronger, then we'll see if she'll make a fine adversary. But by engaging in dual cultivation with such a body, your cultivation will soar. Yilin stared at Yilin, speaking solemnly as if he was talking to Wu Qingqiu. He saw this mystery guy as someone worthy of his respect without even realizing it. Yilin sneered, dual cultivation by definition, comes from 2 halves, one which isn't yours and never will be. It's just too flat. Of the 10 heavenly Daos, none relied on dual cultivation. The minute one does, he strays from it. The 10 heavenly Daos? Yan Mo and Wu Qingqiu asked at the same time. Yilin bore a mystical smile, this is too soon for you to bother with. They're the 10 ancient emperors, though you've never heard of them, I'm sure. Haha, it's fine since all you focus on is the strength in the now. The ones pursuing the end of the path are me and him. Yilin's eyes flashed as he watched Zhuo Fan. Yes, him. Of the entire continent, just the 2 of us know of that place and are working towards it. Startled, Yan Mo and Wu Qingqiu paused, not understanding anything he said. All they could feel was how far away the 2 were from them. Meanwhile, exalted double dragons found the oddity around the formation as well, placing another name right under Zhuo Fan's, Chu Qingqing. By May, the lass has no water element, but the legendary empty spirit body. Exalted He Ran was graved. Exalted by May nodded, the empty spirit body, a container of everything. There is no way otherwise for the formation to unleash such natural energy. In other words, the reason for the formation's power surpassing the elements is all due to her. I am amazed the mystical heaven sect found her. Chu Qingqing is a true rarity, but so are the other 3. Since the formation needs all of them, we will accept them all. Exalted He Ran wrote down the other 3 girls as well. Exalted by May nodded. While the exalted were chatting over candidates, the audience was a sea of noise, all discussing what they just witnessed. Most gaped in awe and some mocked Wuxia for ending up beaten by 4 girls 1 stage under him. These jeers were made to reach his ears too, making his face fall. He wiped the blood from his mouth and looked at his opponents with a poisonous glare of hatred. Wuxia sized the formation up, removing all the early contempt he had before and seeing it as a real opponent. He soon noticed how the formation flowed, centered around Chu Qingqing and painting a target on her. Grinning, Wuxia shook and a 5-meter-tall and green image of a spider formed around him. Its cruel eyes reflected its 4 targets. Showing his soul meant he was going all out. Everyone turned serious now that his soul lay bare. Even the audience. It was a rare occasion for an ethereal stage expert to go all out. Chu Qingqing and her teammates' mood was heavy. Encompassing poison net. Wuxia grinned and the huge spider spewed out green gas. The columns of gas slithered like reptiles for the 4 girls. But when they touched the 4-element cycle array's limit, they went around it. Just like a massive spider web, it trapped the girls within. Zhuo Fan knew what the kid was after. The 4-element cycle array looked impregnable, but enough force trumped everything. In face of true power, no matter how intricate the formation, it would fall like a tower of cards. It all came to how strong this force was and how it was used. Wuxia's first head-on attempt didn't work, so now he used his head. The girls were solemn now that their adversary was getting serious. Whoosh! The huge spider shook and sprung for the girls. Its great aura made it hard to breathe. Shocked, they sent all their power to Chu Qingqing. Permafrost in her hand shone ever brighter and ever colder. She lifted her sword and sent a white wave. The instant the attack was about to hit, the spider turned to green smoke and scattered. The white wave hit nothing. The smoke moved around the formation's barrier and tightened. The audience could now see that the gas was no poison, but minute threats. Thousands upon thousands of spider threads spun around the girls. Wuxia grinned, soul poison explosion. Boom. The string of endless explosions obscured everyone's sight of the girls. All they could see was endless green smoke and hearing the stage's barrier rumbling. Zhuo Fan tightened his fists, more worried than ever. The spectators were first stunned and then amazed by Wuxia's meticulous plan. His insidious gaze easily found out the formation's weakness. The formation used the power of the world itself and seemed perfect by all means, but it needed 4 people to work together to blend their powers into one. So just now the spider faked an attack to force them to pour everything into Chu Qingqing, thus a shift in balance. As Chu Qingqing got stronger, the rest weakened. Wuxia dodged her attack at that moment, going after the 3 girls instead at their worst moment. Wu Qingxiu and everyone else watched with bated breath. Wuxia smirked, going forward to clean up the pieces once the booming stopped. What welcomed him was a white cold flash coming from the thick dust. Before he could even react, it reached as close as his neck before it stopped. Wuxia looked in shock, only to see the 3 girls he targeted bleeding from the mouth. As Chu Qingqing alone, with her cold eyes, was pointing her blade at his throat. Around her was a crystal-clear ice formed, and not just her but all the girls as well that kept the poison at bay. At the same time, the power of the world came from the girls and into Chu Qingqing, brimming her with the power to fight an ethereal stage expert. Chapter 649. Chapter 649, Heartless. This can't be. Wuxia wasn't the only one so shocked. Wu Qingxiu, Yan Mo, and all geniuses from the superior 3 sects bore the same incomprehensible look. Exalted double dragons eased a breath. It's incredible how the last controlled the entire world's energy all by herself. Exalted Bai Mei sighed. Exalted He Ran nodded, his eyes sparkling with curiosity. Most of the people below had no clue what just happened, or what incredible feats Chu Qingqing could do. A mere radiant stage cultivator yet had an uncanny control over her strength. The formation required 4 members to run it, for people that had complete trust in each other to unleash its power. But since 4 people meant 4 wills, it was impossible for them to always work with one mind. That was where Wuxia struck, using explosions to exploit their weakness by attacking all of them at once. He needed just one of them to feel fear, panic and not cooperate with the others and the whole thing would fall apart. That was the truth of it too. Shui Ruohua and the other 2's heavy wounds proved it. The formation had fallen that instant the bombs went off. That's when Chu Qingqing came in, taking it all onto herself, availing herself of her empty spirit body to take and give the power as she wished to keep the formation up. At that sole moment, the 3 girls had no other use than as batteries, supplying Chu Qingqing with yuan qi. They turned a shocked and dull gaze towards the upright and gentle figure. The 4-element cycle array needed 4 of them to use, but now it seemed Qingqing was enough. The trio was filled with admiration and disheartened like someone stole something from them. Wuxia glared in hatred at Chu Qingqing, but as he noticed the endless roaming world power, fear crept in. This woman is a frickin' monster as well. How the hell did a person like her exist on this God's green earth? Wuxia gnashed his teeth, glancing at the people doing a poor job at hiding the sneers, and his heart blackened. The cold blade edge was still breathing down his neck as Chu Qingqing said, "You lost. You did hurt my sister, but since you are with Steward Zhua, I will keep my hand from doing the same." Chu Qingqing glanced over to Zhua Fan, who just happened to find the clouds far more interesting. He was sulking like a little child, thinking the fact a woman was looking up to him was shameful. His mind, however, eased up on the worry. She won at last. Fiend Yang was outraged, that rotten Yun played us. Now we're at a damn draw. So I guess luck wasn't with us. 6 in the ethereal stage yet only 1 ended up fighting those broads. If only 1 more was around, there was no way they'd win. Patience is also a weapon. Zhua Fan smiled. Yun was waiting for this moment, one that had little chance of pulling off. If 4 ethereal stage experts ended up being drawn against the girls, the formation was worth nothing. He had everything in place, lacking only luck. Now that luck has sided with him, nothing can be done, ha. Fiend Yang glanced at him. Our wind just fell through, so why are you so calm about it? I knew from the start that you had no intention of winning this round. If you had just gone up there with 4 more points, the loss of this match wouldn't matter. What's the big deal anyway? We still have a team match that will surely win. Oh please, individual battles, team battles and overall scores are rewarded differently. All the more reason it doesn't matter. Worst case scenario, we'd end up tying in individual battles. I don't want to tie up with them and split the reward. Ugh. Fiend Yang ranted and grumbled, I just can't take it seeing them win anything. Petty much. Zhua Fan smirked. The judge noticed the outcome on stage and said, the 4 individual fights go to Mystical Heaven Sect. The din of the crowd grew louder at the outcome, with some even openly jeering. Was this ethereal stage expert the weakest of the demon scheming sect? The weakest? Weakest. If you want to read more chapters, please visit freeweb.com to experience faster update speed. Lucia's face was twitching all over from rage, his fists tight. Chu Qingqing withdrew the blade at the judge's declaration and let the world's energy scatter. Lucia struck Chu Qingqing's shoulder with a palm attack then and there. She spat blood as she got thrown away by the impact. Qingqing! Shui Ruohua cried, rushing over to help her. Only to see her white as paper and in a heavy frown from pain. The judge jumped in front of Lucia, blocking him from attacking again. Boy, what do you think you're doing? I already gave the verdict. I haven't lost yet. Lucia roared. The judge glared. The outcome was obvious, and fighting after that will only mean death. What's there to be so indignant about? Who wouldn't be? The shout this time came from the demon scheming sect, and everyone turned to see Zhuo Fan's dark face coming over. Lucia woke up at that moment and shook all over. Patting his shoulder, Zhuo Fan looked at the judge and then at Chu Qingqing. The true winner is decided by death. As long as there's still a breath in the opponent's body, he can make a comeback. So on this particular stage, unless the other side killed this one or knocked him out of bounds, there is no winner. Elder, haven't you been a little hasty with the verdict? Well, the judge had no idea how to answer. Danner was outraged. Sister Qingqing spared him because of you. Why else do you think he's still standing? For me, you say? I am from the demon scheming sect, you are from the mystical heaven sect. Once we entered the Double Dragon Manor, we were nothing more than bitter enemies. The slightest weakness will get you killed, your fault not mine. Zhuo Fan snorted and turned away while hinting to Lucia to follow. We are in the Double Dragon Manor and follow their rules. Since the elder judged the match so, we also shall accept it. But the next time they end up dead cause of their mercy, don't come crying to me. Bastard, Danner was furious. Chu Qingqing held her hand and shook her head. She turned one last delicate smile for Zhuo Fan as her world darkened. Qingqing, Qingqing, Shui Ruohua cried, seeing Chu Qingqing's right shoulder seeping black smoke. Oh no, she's been poisoned. Faltering, Zhuo Fan's fists clenched and his eyes turned cold. But only for a moment, as he took back his seat with the same tranquility. The ever-nervous Lucia breathed easier at last. It seems Steward Zhuo doesn't care so much about those women. Shui Ruohua glared back at Zhuo Fan, filled with fury. Every demonic cultivator is heartless. We were wrong for thinking otherwise. Holding Chu Qingqing's unconscious body, the mystical heaven sect team was overcome by anger. They could understand the demon scheming sect's anger of before, but this time, they were lenient only to receive a despicable blow. This was not something they could just swallow. Elder Yun took this chance to admonish them. See that? That is how a demonic cultivator operates, changing their attitude in a blink of an eye. You must never go easy ever again. Let Qingqing be a lesson to all of you. They looked at the pale Chu Qingqing and nodded, their eyes burning with anger. The fighters for the 8th match walk on stage. After a short commotion, the judge declared once more. Mystical Heaven Sect had a handsome youth fighting in this match, vowing to take revenge for senior sister Qingqing as he took firm and large steps on stage. Only when he met face to face with Yu Ling in the ethereal stage did reality come crashing down on top of him and was this close to begging for mercy. His puny skills were worth jack squat to get Qingqing's revenge. Bam! Yu Ling slapped him out of bounds, never to get up ever again. Yu Ling strolled away, bored to death from the opponent being so weak. Fiend Yang was barking, that's more like it, no mercy. They cheated 8 points from us and now we'll make them pay for it. No worries, Venerable, the next fight will be a cinch. They don't have any ethereal stage experts after all. There's no way they can pull another formation, ha. Kuei Lang laughed, ready to go on stage. Fiend Yang nodded. But seeing who it was, Elder Yun's face bloomed in a nasty grin. Chapter 650. Chapter 650, Choice. Proofreader, Papatonks. It's Kuei Lang. Elder Yun's shifty eyes scanned Kuei Lang as he walked on stage, saying to Xian Xiaoyu, Young master, I would have never let you go up there even if it was to forfeit. You're too important. But since it's Kuei Lang, haha, I have the perfect counter. Take Qingqing's permafrost sword, and when you walk on stage you. Elder Yun's voice lowered as he whispered in Xian Xiaoyu's ear. The youth bobbed his head now and then with a cunning look glinting in his eyes. Per the elder's instructions, he took Chu Qingqing's permafrost from her unconscious body, and went to meet his opponent. Kuei Lang mocked, Well, 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 if it isn't the great young master of Mystical Heaven sect. You're looking for a thrashing as well? Ahem, do you know who I am? Xian Xiaoyu began. Kuei Lang replied in his most sarcastic tone, is there anyone in this world who does not know the crippled young master from Mystical Heaven sect with the elements in him out of whack? Are you looking for a whopping coming up here? Sect leader Xian must be sick of you, I guess. Wonder if he found this the best chance to get rid of you, or maybe you never were his son to begin with and he sent you here to die, ha. That set the whole crowd into a round of laughter. Only Mystical Heaven sect's side glared back in anger. I am on stage to fight. Xian Xiaoyu ignored the taunts. His hand shone as he held Permafrost. This sword's previous owner, I hear, vowed never to harm a single person from Demon Scheming sect. I wonder if the sentiment was mutual. Kuei Lang started, his face solemn. Permafrost? Isn't Chu Qingqing the one wielding it? What are you doing holding it? Think it will be your good luck charm in this fight? Haha, I am the great Mystical Heaven sect's young master. I don't cower behind anything. I am holding this sword only as a reminder. Xian Xiaoyu's mouth took an evil smile, his lips moved but no words came out. He was sending a message. Kuei Lang squinted, his face twisted in shock, then he turned pensive for a moment before sighing, I surrender. The entire arena burst into an uproar. Even the judge was taken aback. An ethereal stage expert surrendered to a cripple? How come? Fiend Yang started raining curses like a madman. Kuei Lang, you damn freaking useless bastard. A slap, that's all it would have taken. What damn surrender? Why is this always happening? Are you all trying to make me look bad? Demon Scheming sect's team looked at Kuei Lang, waiting for an explanation. Only Zhuo Fan, who witnessed it all, knew what happened. Mystical Heaven sect pulled out all the stops in dealing with the Demon Scheming sect. I bet they must have found a way to twist his arm. Kuei Lang's face darkened as he left the stage, leaving Xian Xiaoyu with a sinister smile and pride for pulling such a glorious achievement with this win. Brother, what just happened? I was afraid that Fiend would hurt you. How is it that he just surrendered? Shui Ruohua asked hurriedly. Xian Xiaoyu put on a vague smile, downplaying it, can't say. This was Elder Yun's plan and a little secret between us, ha. The two laughed out loud, leaving the girls out of the loop. Kuei Lang lowered his head as he took his seat among his teammates, even as he got everyone's questioning gazes on him. He never once spoke about it, just giving them a guilty look. Even his son, Kuei Gang, struggled to understand what could drive his father to do this. Kuei Lang, you made the entire sect pay a heavy price with your loss. Because of your forfeit, we are now 4 points behind. We lost the individual fights. You better have a damn good explanation or I will put you down per the sect's rules. Zhuo Fan glanced over. The others rolled their eyes at the threat. You're one to talk since you started all this forfeiting mess. Zhuo Fan took out Xie Weiyue's token, dangling it. By the power vested in me by the sect leader, I am, for all intents and purposes, the sect leader here. No matter what I decide, the sect won't make a peep. Got it? Yeah, you're awesome, sir. They all sighed, even the venerables. Great then, Kuei Lang, you have some explaining to do to prevent such a mishap from happening again. If you find your mouth glued, it might be easier just to send me the explanation. Zhuo Fan pointed at his ear. Kuei Lang ground his teeth, but due to his trust in Zhuo Fan, he chose to whisper in his ear. Zhuo Fan's face lit up. Oh, so that's why. You're excused. Now that the matter has passed, none of you will speak of it again, nor start spreading it back at the sect. Thank you, Steward Zhuo. Kuei Lang cupped his hand in gratitude. The rest were more stumped than ever. Kuei Gang could not fight the question. Dad, what happened? What made you step down? Even if you were up there, you'd do the same. Kuei Lang hesitated. Zhuo Fan snorted, then took out the token. What did I say just now? Are you disobeying the sect leader's orders? No. Everyone bowed with respect. Zhuo Fan nodded, pleased, while Kuei Lang was puzzled. The judge shouted the verdict to all the matches. Mystical Heaven sect has 8 points, Demon Scheming sect has 4. This round goes to Mystical Heaven sect. The crowd gasped, none of them seeing it coming. Against all logic, Mystical Heaven sect, the weaker one, pulled a fast one on Demon Scheming sect. Everyone was baffled. Mystical Heaven sect's formation was a neat trick, but nowhere near enough to turn the tides, which made the outcome more surprising. Mystical Heaven sect's disciples were smug, while Demon Scheming sect's side was glum. Next is the team fights, which are conducted in another area. The judge began. Elder Yun butted in with a bow and a smile. Ha, Elder, we, the Mystical Heaven sect, forfeit this round. Zhuofan's brow shook and he spared him a glance. Ouyun here is devious all right. Confident in victory, he sacrificed his disciples over points, all just to turn it around. Now that his forces were cut down to size, fighting would be pointless, thus forfeiting altogether. Such confidence in one's choices was a rarity. At least better than most other fools stumbling with their problems. Zhuofan glanced at Fiend Yang, who was stomping around and cursing from the missed chance to get back at them. Hey Ouyun, now that you caught us unprepared, you're running away? Do you think it's that easy? You played us well in the singles. Now fight us if you have the guts. Fiend Yang rambled and blustered about. Zhuofan had enough and left with a shake of his head. The other left as well, leaving only Fiend Yang hooting. When he woke up from his frenzy, he rushed after them. Hey, why didn't you wait for me? I'm still your venerable. The comic relief helped the crowd lighten up and even laugh. The lower three sects stage came to a close with Mystical Heaven sect having won the singles, Demon Scheming sect winning the team battles, and the overall score placing them in first place. Though everyone knew Mystical Heaven sect played the rules in their favor to squeeze a win against the deadly Demon Scheming sect. Zhuofan, the best in Chanyu, you should be fighting in the middle three sect stage. Haha, when Tao grinned, Qianshang. He called behind him, where is he? Zhuofan took the Demon Scheming sect's disciples to their lodgings. They were all in a foul mood after today's fights. If we fight again, I'll break their formation. Wuxia justified himself to Qi Changlong and Bai Lian. The two only sneered. The outcome was quite evident. Did he have to die for him to admit defeat? Bam. Following the loud crack, Wuxia's face kissed the pavement with a crunch. He returned from the hard touch of the ground with blood running down his lips and two fewer teeth. The others jerked, looking back to see Zhuofan's angry face glaring at Wuxia. Boy, I have had it with you. Zhuofan was fuming now. Even the venerables looked shaken up. Chapter 651. Chapter 651, the same. Proofreader, Papatonks. With a heavy step, dark energy swirled around Zhuofan as he made his way to Wuxia. His eyes flashed with bloodthirst. Wuxia froze, shaking all over. Steward Zhua, what's the meaning of this? I haven't done anything wrong. The rest were tense but not enough to make them talk. Zhuofan got next to Wuxia and clutched his throat, lifting him off the ground. The overwhelming aura made breathing hard as he demanded, where is the antidote? Antidote. Wuxia's brow shook with understanding. Zhuofan still cares about that broad. He used to think Zhuofan's cold front implied he did not give a damn about that woman, but he was holding it in to settle the accounts now. Wuxia's heart was filled with indignity as he croaked, Steward Zhua, you can't do this to me. I have given my all for the sect. You didn't punish someone that forfeited, but you go after me for harming some woman? Where's the fairness in that? Zhuofan, Wuxia had fought hard just now. I understand you want the antidote, but you can't just demand it like this. Fiend Yang found an excellent excuse to try and talk some sense into him. Zhuofan snorted, this is my business. Any that interferes will be severely punished. I will be the judge here about what is excessive or not. You have no say in this. Don't think for a second Venerable Sher can protect you. You have always gone against me all the way here. Ignorant fool, hand over the antidote now or else. There isn't one. Wuxia's brow trembled, feeling the power in Zhuofan's grip. My poison isn't deadly. She will suffer for 49 days and that's it. The judge had given his verdict, so I didn't dare kill anyone. I'm also afraid Double Dragon Manor will interfere. Otherwise, the other side's elders would have also asked for the antidote, don't you think? Zhuofan's eye twitched, and his heart filled with rage. His body was flooded with a raging power current as the black energy roamed all over Wuxia before entering his body. Wuxia felt like a tight black net robbed him of all movements as it ate away at his body. He had never felt such danger before, sweating buckets in fear. Zhuofan was going to kill him over some woman? Zhuofan's icy eyes felt like a sucking abyss, his voice eerie, hand over the antidote, or you'll get out of my sight for good. Wait, Zhuofan, he just said there isn't any. The woman is in no danger as well. This is still the Double Dragon Gathering and we need all the help we can get. You can't just kill him. Fiend Yang tried to reason with him. Zhuofan wouldn't hear it. The black energy coiled more and more around Wuxia, moments away from enveloping him in complete darkness. The Venerable was panicking yet still didn't make a move to stop him. Wuxia could no longer hold it and cried, wait, wait. I have the antidote. Lucia's hand shone and a vial appeared. Fiend Yang stood agape and then glared at him. The prick had the antidote all along. He could have just handed it over from the start, but he had to make us all worried for nothing. Bam. Not even sparing him a glance, Zhuo Fan flung him away. As he slammed to the ground, he spat blood, and the vial in his hand soared through the air and into Zhuo Fan's hand. Zhuo Fan eyed the rest with a cold gaze. Every poison user has an antidote for their poisons, lest they get poisoned as well. Maybe some extremely deadly poisons do not, so the enemy will never survive, but as for the milder ones especially used in torture, they are bound to have an antidote. The next time I do something, stay out of my way. What? Fiend Yang was embarrassed, then glared at Lucia. This bastard was faking it all along so much that we even bought it. Zhuo Fan ignored them, walking away. But just after a few steps he stopped again, looking baffled. Long time no see, Zhuo Fan. A familiar figure stood in the doorway of their courtyard. Xie Qinshan came along with two girls, Shuanger and Yongning. The girls looked from Lucia, bleeding on the ground, to Zhuo Fan's dark expression and gasped. They had never seen him so furious before. Xie Qinshan hardly cared, evident by his smile. Ever since what happened to Ninger at the esoteric debate, I never saw you so out of control. Edifice Lord Chu must have made some progress, I see, ha. Xie Qinshan, why are you here? Are you representing Chanyu as well? Not at all. While you did not notice me in the sect stands, I had a clear view of your arrogant and overbearing self. Ah, you haven't changed a bit after all these years. Xie Qinshan's gaze sharpened. Zhuo Fan, do you remember my old goal? Since you left Chanyu, then I did as well. I am now a disciple of the Sword God sect, competing in the middle 3 sections. I'll be waiting. Zhuo Fan frowned and gave the nod after a pause. He flicked his sleeve and threw the vial. Let's leave that aside for now and help me with this. Xie Qinshan caught it and chuckled, just like always, exercising extreme caution, never doing it yourself. All right, I'll deliver the antidote for you. Xie Qinshan turned around and walked for a few steps before looking back at the girls. How about you two come along? You haven't met with Edifice Lord Chu yet, have you? Come on, if you know your enemy and yourself, you'll surely win, haha. Xie Qinshan went on with a faint smile as the girls tensed. They shared a glance, then looked from Zhuo Fan to the disciplined Lucia, bleeding on the ground. Their eyes lit up and rushed to follow. They didn't even greet Zhuo Fan. Zhuo Fan grumbled for a bit, then left as well. With them gone, the heavy mood slowly returned to normal. Fiend Yang sighed and couldn't help but a curse. You idiot, are you that blind to not see how much Zhuo Fan cares about that woman? And you struck her? You must be damn lucky you got away from Zhuo Fan in one piece. But didn't they break it off? Didn't they both say they'll go all out the next time they meet? Lucia gnashed his teeth. Kuei Lang sighed. They said one thing but their hearts thought another. In this world, when a man meets a woman, what they say and what they feel are opposite. They might say they won't hold back, but who is to say that will truly happen when they meet again? The girl didn't skewer you because of Steward Zhua. And Steward Zhua almost killed you because of her. This is called saying one thing and doing another. In any case, you just had a brush with death. Shit. Why the hell are they faking then, and why am I taking the fall for their duplicity? Lucia was raging mad. Venerable, I was just following your advice, to be ruthless to those bastards that burn bridges. No, you're not dumping this on me. I was talking about the others and did not say that girl specifically. You could have at least come to this conclusion yourself and thought of Zhuo Fan. Fiend Yang was waving all over as he tried to get out of this mess. Zhuo Fan was right in the end. He had put up with you for too long. You not once showed an ounce of respect all the way here. Everything else he may overlook, but this time you have struck where it hurt him the most. Did you not see how he dealt with Yenemo? You got what was coming to you this time. I have been around more than you and can tell. In matters between a man and a woman, it's best not to get involved, or this is how you'll end up. Fiend Yang finished his reprimand and Kuei Lang followed, making him sullen and angry. What the hell did I get into? I was just beaten up and now seen as an outsider? And that Zhuo Fan, he was going to kill his teammates over some woman? How is he fit to lead us? But then he looked around and all he saw were faces saying he got what was coming. He was fuming mad. God damn it, Zhuo Fan, just you wait. You haven't seen the end of this. Mark my words. Lucia gnashed his teeth, his eyes sinister as he looked at everyone around him. These people, teammates for lack of a better word, were Zhuo Fan's lackeys, taking every one of his words as law, even ignoring the good of the sect. His heart just could not accept it. This resentment was bound to be the seed of calamity. Chapter 652. Chapter 652, If He's Safe. Proofreader, Papatonks. Ching, how are you feeling? The cramped room was now crowded with Shui Ruohua and others, all looking worriedly at Chu Ching, sitting cross-legged on the bed. The floating light green traces from her body made her body tremble and her face contort in pain. Xian Xiaoyu gnashed his teeth as he cursed. Those repulsive demonic cultivators even resorted to sneak attacks, and heavy-handedly too. We don't even know if Sister Ching will be all right. She took so many pills and antidotes but none of them worked. Danner shouted in anger. Everyone gave a nod of worry. Only Elder Yun waved his hand, his voice calm. It's fine. You guys don't need to make such a fuss. I inspected Ching and found her life wasn't in danger. This is Double Dragon Manor. How can anyone just resort to murder? Just that these days Ching will be in suffering and pain. Humph, damn those demonic cultivators making junior sister Ching suffer so much. I will never forget this. Xian Xiaoyu gnashed his teeth. The rest were just as angry. Young Master, Elder, Xia Qianshang of Sword God Sect has paid a visit. A shout came from outside the house. The first middle three sects? The two looked at each other, then wondered, what is someone from the first middle three sects doing here? While they were wondering, the pained Chu Ching opened her eyes. She had a faint smile as she said, show him in. He is an old friend from Tianyu. He must want to see me. Another old friend? Xian Xiaoyu's mood darkened. Not another shady pursuer, is it? He said, junior sister Ching can't receive guests in her state. It's better if you don't see him. Wait, young master. Elder Yun spoke first, advising, a simple old acquaintance of Ching could be sent off, but he has the Sword God Sect behind him. We can't ignore them. It's best to receive him still. Xian Xiaoyu was annoyed by Elder Yun's idea but could only nod, even as his mind was frantic. Xia Qianshang brought Yun Shuang and Yongning along. After greeting Elder Yun, he noticed Chu Ching sweating and pale. He cupped his hands. Edifice Lord Chu, it's been a long time. Have you been well? Enough of your crap. Can't you see she isn't well at all? Danner rolled her eyes as she grumbled. The others fell silent. He only said that in passing, yet you got annoyed so fast. Chu Ching patted her shoulder. Xia Qianshang chuckled and bowed again. Forgive me for my crudeness. Edifice Lord Chu, I have witnessed how you got poisoned, and I have brought a secret antidote from my sect that should alleviate the pain. Xia Tianyang presented the vial. Chu Ching's eyes lit up and she nodded. Thank you for your kindness, young Master Xiang. Please, we have the same homeland. There's no need for that. Xia Qianshang smiled and handed it over. Shui Ruohua gave it to Chu Ching, who was still trembling in pain. Young Master Xia Ching had taken many pills but none helped. Could it be that this? It will work. Xia Qianshang smiled with conviction. Chu Ching smiled as well. I believe so as well. She opened the vial and took the pill. She remained cross-legged, meditating quietly. The others were still looking at her nervously, but after 15 minutes, something magical happened. Chu Ching's trembling stopped. Her face became rosy, and the green energy around her slowly faded away. Young Master Xia, your pill is amazing. It actually worked. Danner's eyes lit up. Xia Qianshang simply smiled in reply, while Xian Xiaoyu and Elder Yun were amazed by the middle three sects' power. I don't know what that poison was, but it was removed so easily. Is this a universal antidote, I wonder? Chu Ching revealed the answer soon enough. She opened her eyes and smiled. Ha, he's still the same, never wanting to take credit for anything. You knew. Of course, such a specialized antidote can only come from the poisoner himself. Chu Ching was filled with happiness. Shui Ruohua asked curiously, Ching, you said the antidote belongs to the poisoner. Does that mean it's demon scheming sex Lu Xia? Yes, it's his. Though I bet he wasn't so keen on giving it. Xia Qianshang spoke like she knew everything. Xia Qianshang smiled and nodded. Edifice Lord Chu, it's like you're him to know him so well. Just as I went to see him, he was beating up the guy to force him to give the antidote. But you know his style. He would never admit to doing such a kind act. He's just as stubborn as always behind that cold face. I've seen him do it too many times in the esoteric debate. Chu Ching's gaze wandered, recalling the fond memories. The girls were even more puzzled. Danner asked, Senior sister, you can't mean that Zhuo Fan gave you the antidote, can you? He had even been scolding you on stage to be crueler and forget the past. And he only did it because he pitied me, not wanting me to be in danger again. In fact, I was quite happy to hear him say that. As for his coldness, haha, he's always been like this. Chu Qingqing did not mind it in the least. The girls were speechless. What is it between these two exactly? It just feels more complicated by the day. Xian Xiaoyu was very hateful right then. The antidote came from him again. He would have surely stopped it if he knew. He could never allow the two to contact each other, even if it meant offending Sword God sect. Xie Qianshang nodded and sighed. Edifice Lord Chu, you have changed over the years. You used to be so forceful and tough. Sometimes you'd be so scared by that arrogant and almighty Zhuo Fan you'd never see him. Really? Danner looked intrigued at Chu Qingqing, but she flicked the girl's nose, gave her a deep look, and the girl shied back. Chu Qingqing sighed. I used to want an explanation from him at all cost, but after I saw how far he went for Ninger, I knew. This man has his own path and I should let him take it. Ninger? Chu Qingqing was roused by the voice and looked at Yongning. You know Ninger? Then you aren't Sword God sect disciples either. Xie Tianshang smiled. Let me introduce you. She is Tianyu's princess Yongning, and this is Tianyu's holy maiden Yun Shuang. They are both Edifice Lord Chu's main rivals. You should be careful. Yongning and Shuanger were put on the spot. Chu Qingqing simply smiled at Xie Tianshang. Who'd have thought the great martial fanatic of yesteryear would crack jokes? Then she looked deeply at Yun Shuang. You're Shuanger? Peony Overseer said in her messages that Zhuo Fan declared in front of everyone that he wanted you. I must say, with your pure look, you sure bear a striking resemblance to Ninger. No, please don't say that. Shuanger panicked, her face going beet red. Then she said quietly, I was only his pawn. Nothing actually happened. A pawn? The girls looked at each other and anger appeared on their faces. To treat such a nice girl as a pawn, that Zhuo Fan is a cold bastard. Xian Xiaoyu used this chance to fling dirt. Hear that? That vile demon only knows how to deceive innocent girls. Qingqing, you must see him for who he is and not buy into his lies. He first had you injured and now sent someone with the antidote. He clearly wants to get to you. You must not let him. I know him far better than you ever will. Chu Qingqing sneered, her smile icy. Besides, as long as he is safe, I don't care if I become his pawn. What I fear is that he'll abandon me without even finding a use for me. The girls watched Chu Qingqing in shock. This prideful ice queen wanted to become someone's pawn, forever by his side. Was this still the same cold and determined beauty of before? While Elder Yun shook his head, Xian Xiaoyu was fuming mad because of this. The poor lass had fallen victim to a vile demonic cultivator. Chapter 653, Where the Heart Is. Chapter 653, Where the Heart Is. Proofreader, Papatonks. Qingqing, wake up. You've been taken in by that demon. Shui Ruohua shook Chu Qingqing and shouted at her. Chu Qingqing shook her head. Senior sister, I have been taken in, but that is because I wanted to. Nonsense. How is it logical to let yourself be bewildered? Shui Ruohua did not believe it. Chu Qingqing gave up, turning to Shuanger and gesturing the two to come over. Shuanger and Yongning tensed in front of their arch-rival in love. She won't do anything to us, will she? But the two relented at Chu Qingqing's bright smile that looked like an angel's. Chu Qingqing smiled. I know you both want to be by his side, but to do this you must understand him. You must also know what happened to Ninger. I heard from the Luo clan that Zhuo Fan saved her in the end, but she forgot about him, so he let her go. Yongning said. Chu Qingqing nodded. You know some, but not everything, not what he went through to do it. I was still stubborn back then, forcing him to accept me. Chu Qingqing began narrating the days of old, from how the Seven Houses conflict started, to Zhuo Fan's cruel path, of Ninger's death, of Zhuo Fan's fall to madness, of his struggle and his white hair. She had told them everything, every little detail, well, except the part about her and Zhuo Fan separating because of it, going to different sections. Whether it was telling her story or Zhuo Fan's, she always had that reminiscing smile. It was then that I knew this man was far from dead inside. He is only holding himself back is all. The path he threads is destined to be cruel and cold. So how could I want to be an obstacle? That's why I left, so that he would never fall into such despair again after what happened to Ninger. If he is safe, I will be content. Chu Qingqing smiled at Shui Ruohua. I'm so happy to find that he still cares about me. That's why I was glad when he asked senior sister about me. The girls were taken aback. They would never have imagined a cruel and cold demonic cultivator like Zhuofan would go through such pain and agony. When Ninger woke up, he did not cling to her but let her go for her own good. Chu Qingqing had made the same choice then as well, all for him. They all sensed that even by walking different paths, righteous and demonic, they were actually so similar. To them, the factions had no meaning, not when they knew each other completely. The girls instantly had the desire to play matchmaker. Yun Shuang and Yongning lowered their bashful heads, coming to see just how little they knew Zhuofan compared to Chu Qingqing. What right did they have to be with him? Xian Xiaoyu had long since been grinding his teeth in silence. The two had too many deep memories. It was impossible to make her forget about that bastard. So what was left to be said about his chances? I see. So that's why Edifice Lord Chu does not cling to him, because you trust him completely. Xie Qianshang sighed, but by the looks of it, he will always be conflicted. Which is more important, the demonic path or love? This will be his final trial. I only hope he will be able to overcome it quickly and get stronger with it. That way I can also follow my goal by following him forever. The girls raised an eyebrow. That's some bromance. Xie Qianshang noticed their quirky looks and was baffled. What, did I say something wrong? Outside of Mystical Heaven Sect's courtyard, in a remote corner, stood a tall man, Zhuofan. Ever since Xie Qianshang entered, he had been standing here for 6 hours. He only wanted to see him come out, proving that Chu Qingqing was all right. Whoosh! Someone flashed behind him and said in a familiar tone, spreading a strong scent of alcohol, "Haha, you just can't let her go, can you?" Zhuofan looked back to see the drunk Dan Qingxin smiling at him. "Senior, how are you still here?" Zhuofan asked. Dan Qingxin said, I told you, there's no place that can bar me on these lands. I can go wherever I want." "What, you have a problem with people coming from behind?" No, you can do what you wish." Zhuofan's face twitched. Dan Qingxin gave him a long look, then snickered, "Why does love exist in this world? To teach people about the meaning of life? Kid, if you want that lash, just go get her. What's there to be conflicted about?" "Senior, please don't joke. You know as well that, this isn't my path." Zhuofan sighed inside. Dan Qingxin nodded, "Oh, quite true. That only means you're fickle. You had 2 girls and now you got a 3rd one. You don't deserve her. What about all those bachelors? Leave some for them." "Senior, don't joke. You know what I mean." Zhuofan's face twitched again and he sighed, "I walk the demonic path, a dead road filled with cruelty and no emotions. How can I let emotions take me? If I do, it will harm me and especially her. So why bother? The past is a living testament to that." Dan Qingxin gave him a long look then said, "Then what are you standing around here for? Since you're dead inside, kill all emotions. Standing out here, spying on a girl's window is doing neither of you any good." "Senior is right, but after all that has happened, I just can't let go." Zhuofan sighed, "I never owed anyone a favor, I have only had others owe me. The minute I owe someone, it would be very hard to pay it back." Dan Qingxin grinned, a story. I just love stories. Come here and tell me. Maybe I can help you solve your troubles." All right. It's my fortune to have Senior's care." Zhuofan began narrating the 7 houses conflicts, the esoteric debate in every detail. "Saving Ninger was my problem. She had nothing to do with it. In the end, she was forced to go to Mystical Heaven Sect so I could save Ninger. I don't even know what kind of conditions she had to accept either. I just don't know when I will ever be able to return the favor. If I don't, then I will never know peace for as long as I live." Zhuofan shook his head. Dan Qingxin turned serious as well, "A strange girl indeed. To save your friend she trapped herself. Now I understand why you regarded Wuxia's attack as if he attacked your friends. This is a heavy debt. The only way I can see it returned is if you give your heart and soul for her." "Hey Senior, I'm a demonic cultivator here." Yeah, a dead and cruel path, yada yada." Dan Qingxin said casually, then turned solemn, "Kid, I may not be a demonic cultivator and don't understand your way, but all paths lead to the truth, the Tao. That, at least, I do know. Even on the emotionless and cruel path, you need to feel first before you can squash your emotions. How else can you remove something that wasn't there to begin with? Just like us righteous cultivators who pursue justice, where would justice be if not for evil? How would you know justice without understanding evil? Here's an example. That universal righteous sect, they just love preaching justice left and right, but how many do you think are aware of what that even means? Is justice fighting some demonic cultivators? That's not even breaking the surface. Zhuofan pondered, having noticed the wisdom but had yet to unravel its profound meaning. It seemed there was a thick shroud covering his sight, never lifting. Kid. Dan Qingshen sighed, you have so many girls around you, yet only that lass is a bit special. I thought you were serious about her, but after hearing your story, I'm having second thoughts. Do you feel guilty about her, or is it really love? Zhuofan frowned and shook his head. I do not know. Haha, you're still naive. Dan Qingshen shook his head, then let this old man teach you. Close your eyes and recall that perfect moment of bliss and happiness. Zhuofan did so and relaxed, his mind at peace. Through the stream of memories, he only found two that fit the old man's question. I have two peaceful memories. One is in the All-Beast Mountain Range with Ninger and Xie Tianyang. Haha, three people's happiness. Dan Qingshen shook his head, but they are nothing more than your precious friends. That's not the one. There's no such thing as happiness between three people. One always finds himself a third wheel. Ha ha ha. Then there's the other in a rundown house. How many? Dan Qingshen asked. 2. Man? Woman? Woman? Who is she? Dan Qingshen shouted now. Zhuofan opened his eyes and his face grew grave. Dan Qingshen laughed, that one is where your heart is. Whether or not it is this lass, only your heart knows, ha. Dan Qingshen was gone with that last laugh, leaving Zhuofan alone and sighing. What am I supposed to do? Chapter 654, Have Been Around. Chapter 654, Have Been Around. Proofreader, Papatonks. 3 days, that was how long Zhuofan was cooped up in his room with one leg over the other and not moving a muscle. He had been at this ever since he saw Xie Qinshan coming out of that courtyard, showing that the antidote was effective and Chu Qingqing had recovered. Today was when the middle 3 sex stage began, yet he did not feel like inspecting his enemies, letting Fiend Yang take the disciples to watch the fight. Zhuofan frowned deeply. His mind was uncertain, filled with Dan Qingshen's words. How did one remove love when it wasn't even there? This was one question he had never thought about. Maybe he had been on this lonely road of demonic cultivation for so long that he had gotten used to being alone and everything going his way. But heaven played a sick joke on him, bringing him back and tying him down again and again. He could no longer go back to just being a demonic cultivator. Was it heaven's way of taunting him, or maybe a trial? Maybe Yun Xuanji was right. This is my chance to restart my demonic path. It was just that this path was too foreign that he did not know how to proceed. Unlike the breezy demonic path he trod in his previous life, he didn't know if this new path would bring him to the pinnacle of Tao. Just what am I to do? Demonic cultivation emphasized a dead heart. Once emotions sprouted, they would drag him back. But how was one supposed to remove them when one had yet to experience them? This is so messed up. If one took those emotions to train in the demonic path, would these emotions remain pure? Could they be called the feelings one had at first? They were nothing more than a means to an end. But if one fell to emotion, how could one just up and cut them off? If they could be removed so easily, why then still call it true love? Holy shit. If I see it as a trial, that means no path is the right one. Zhuofan face-bombed, hesitating if he should insist on going down this road. Better go with the flow and trust where my heart takes me. If it were so, would he ever return to his demonic path? I'm only getting further and further away. Feeling powerless, Zhuofan just did not know what to do. He had been in his man cave for these 3 days, struggling with his greatest problem yet. It just goes to show my previous path was too plain. Zhuofan, another dark horse showed up. I don't think we'll even get to pass the middle 3 sects fight now. A shout came from outside the courtyard. Zhuofan rolled his eyes at Fiend Yang's distraught voice, turning over and resuming his conflicting thoughts. Bam. He was in for a rude awakening as Fiend Yang just would not let him, smashing the door open, rushing over, and shaking every bone in his body. Damn brat, don't you know anything besides sleeping? You'll get all the sleep you want when you're dead. We have more important things to worry about right now. What's the hurry? Aren't we challenging the middle 3 sects tomorrow? Just leave it. Leave your ass. Zhuofan's lazy attitude ticked Fiend Yang off. Damn brat, you did not come to see the middle 3 sects stage. Do you know how it ended? Don't wanna. Why you? Fiend Yang's face twitched in rage. He worked hard to keep it bottled up and prevent it from leaking into his voice. You wouldn't be so relaxed if you had seen what happened at the middle 3 sects stage. I bet you'd freak out more than me. Sword God sect is a freak of nature. All 10 of its disciples are in the ethereal stage, even your old friend. Zhuofan recalled his old friend, then nodded. Oh, right. I never paid him much attention when he came. But now that you mention it, his aura did place him in the ethereal stage. He's always been a martial fanatic, a genius cultivator, but for him to enter the ethereal stage so fast is beyond my expectations. The middle 3 sects sure are rich. Well, congrats to him. Congrats your sister. You still have the free time to care about someone else? He is our greatest threat. Fiend Yang was itching to smack some sense into this sloppy Zhuofan, but he reined it in. Dude, you're our leader. Can't you show some interest? Sword God sect's lineup is as strong as a superior 3 sects. Do you know how they fared in the matches? They won all of them, both singles and teams. Demon Soul sect and Heaven Trailing sect haven't won once. Zhuofan looked at him curiously. That amazing? Yes, that amazing. Fiend Yang sighed. Sword God sect has always been the top middle 3 sects, but the other 2 sects weren't this far behind. Even with the superior 3 sects' dominance over the middle 3 sects, none of the superior 3 sects could guarantee such a complete victory. Fiend Yang's worry grew as he sighed. And then there's that gentle sword. He showed great power, but I am sure he didn't go all out. The entire Sword God sect came prepared, then they even gave us taunting looks. They clearly aren't afraid of us, or more particularly you. They must have something ready for you. That's what worries me the most. Oh, then we should be more careful. Zhuofan nodded, finally getting serious. I'll just have to use my foolproof strategy to make losing impossible. Fiend Yang lit up. You have such a thing? Tell me. We don't fight them. We can't lose if we don't fight. Zhuofan grinned, or we'll just have to settle being a middle 3 sect. Fiend Yang's face twitched, and his eyes were burning with a newfound rage he could no longer contain. Zhuofan, is that how you don't lose? Shit. Who was it that said we'll challenge the superior 3 sects? It was you who proclaimed such great design. But now that you met the Sword God sect blocking your path, you shy away? You're nothing more than. With an unbridled yawn, Zhuofan walked away as Fiend Yang was in the middle of his rant. He had more pressing things to worry about, like his inner conflict. Other stuff was just extra. He cared even less about some good of the sect motto. Getting them in the middle 3 sects was enough to fulfill his end of the bargain with Xiaoyue. Superior 3 sects? Haha, that's your problem. Fiend Yang felt powerless at Zhuofan's disinterest. This young master is so damn stubborn, only doing things based on his mood. If he were in good spirits, he'd be arrogant and fight everything under the sky. If he were in the dumps, he would rather sit back. What a pain in the ass, and there's no way to deal with him. Steward Zhuo, venerable, people from the Heaven Trailing sect have come to see you, Kuei Lang shouted as he entered. Looking at Fiend Yang's red face and Zhuofan's laid-back attitude, he knew what had happened. So he bowed and declared. Fiend Yang glanced at Zhuofan. We've been here for so long already and haven't paid each other any visits. So why is it today they come to us? Punk, this isn't over. We'll talk when I get back. Fiend Yang slammed his hand hard on Zhuofan's shoulder and left in a huff. Zhuofan had a faint smile on his face. Kuei Lang did not disturb him and closed the door behind him. Zhuofan then recalled something and shouted, Hey Kuei Lang, come back. I want to ask you something. Steward Zhuo, is there anything you need? Kuei Lang bowed. Zhuofan waved his hand, turning dead serious. Kuei Lang, you and your one must have a deep love for each other, right? Why else would you forfeit knowing it could kill you? She keeps me at peace. She chases my fears. Alright, I got it. You don't need to mention it. Kuei Lang looked at the sky sorrowfully, but Zhuofan cut him off right as he started. I just wanted to ask. You know demonic cultivation is emotionless, so why do you do this for her? Kuei Lang gave him a long look, then sighed. Steward Zhuo, I know the sect has a rule not to fraternize. But love is like a torrent, sweeping anything in its path. I have been around and understand this better than most. Both its sweet and bitter sides with all in between. All I can say is that I have no regrets. Even when I got cast down to being a laborer. You misunderstood me. This isn't about the sect's rules. I'm talking about the demonic path. Now that you've known love so much, it's hard to progress. Why did you dive in without hesitating? Kuei Lang had a strange look. Steward Zhuo, I may be a disciple on the demonic path, but I haven't once thought about it. I only followed what others did and did not break the sect's rules. That is all. When I got close to her, I wasn't thinking about anything, just that we might be exposed and suffer for it. Fan paused for a moment and nodded. An ordinary cultivator like Kuei Lang was still at the start of the demonic path and probably would never traverse it to reach the Tao. So he didn't consider things too much. Fan shook his head, feeling foolish. What was I thinking asking him? He doesn't know the difference between a path and a demon. All he does is follow the herd. Because of this, Fan admired him. Faced with simple-minded choices, one did not have regrets. You can go. I need some peace and quiet. Fan shooed him. Kuei Lang nodded and bowed before leaving. But just as he was at the door, he said, Steward Zhua, I don't know if it's my place to say this. My insight into the demonic path is way shallower than yours and Elder Yuan's, but there is one area I know for certain. I chose the demonic path over the righteous because of their many restrictions. While I do not know what is on your mind, I get the feeling you are also restricted by yourself. Why must you do so? I have been around, and when it comes to emotions or love, I won't hesitate. Why do you suddenly sound so wise? Fan shook, and a realization struck him as he gaped at him. Kuei Lang scratched his head. I can never be wiser than Steward Zhua, that I know. All I can say is that I know about feelings, haha. Chapter 655. Contradiction. Chapter 655. Contradiction. Proofreader, Papatonks. Freedom of action stood at the base of the demonic path, but one could feel restricted by walking down this path. Such a contradiction. Fan started, returning to the old unanswered problem plaguing his mind. Damn that Rinsong. How dare he look down on me like it's beneath him to talk to me. This is bullshit. Just when Fan was finally alone with his thoughts, a loud voice complaining sounded. A bang followed and the door was slammed open again. Fiend Yang stomped inside and saw Fan. You, the heaven trailing sect is asking for you. Go see them. Me? What for? Fan raised an eyebrow. You're a great venerable, aren't you? You're not enough? Of course I am, but those sons of she-dogs have holes for eyes. Fiend Yang grumbled, then sighed, but they want to meet you specifically, so you must go. They are the head of Tianyu's 3 guardian sections. We have to show our respect. Fan rolled his eyes and went. Fiend Yang led the way to the front of the courtyard. Stood inside, looking around while Guei Hu and the others accompanied them. Your place sure is tiny, but what can you expect from a lower 3 sect, haha? A young master in silken robes fanned himself as he laughed. The 2 youths in green around him laughed as well, looking at Guei Hu with derision. The grizzled old man said nothing. Guei Hu was angry, but the 2 fiends left here stopped him and the other disciples from shouting. Fan saw this and asked Fiend Yang, is heaven trailing sect here to look for trouble? Quite the tone they have. I'm not sure. However, there hasn't been any issue between our sections. Just go there and you'll know. Fiend Yang rolled his eyes. The 2 approached. Guei Hu's side bowed before Steward Zhua and stood aside. The 4 instantly set their eyes on him. The young master snapped his fan closed and barked, so you're the dark horse of the lower 3 sects? I saw you when your sect fought with Mystical Heaven sect. But why did you not participate? I'm not sure how tough you are, but you sure know how to be cocky. You know I'm cocky, yet you come at me with that attitude? Are you itching to be pummeled? Fan rolled his eyes. That makes 2 of us. Why have you all come here? And for me in particular? Haha, we heard you're running rampant and that the sect cherishes you. The venerables must have exaggerated, so we came to see the truth. The young master showed a nasty smile filled with contempt. Fan's eyelid twitched. Now he got the gist of what they wanted. They came for a fight. A puny middle 3 sect wants to waste my time? The young master took Fan's silence for fear and grew more courageous. Haha, now don't be so nervous. I came with good intentions. I presume you also saw the middle 3 sect stage today and should already know what to do. I only came here thinking you have been complacent and thought of reminding you how things stand. Demon scheming sect's disciples knew where he was going with this, and their faces fell. Only Fan played the fool, sporting the same baffled look. How was the result in today's stage anyway? Please tell me. Fan smiled. The young master's face twitched and turned dark. He glared, are you mocking us when you already know? Humph, we may have had poor results this time in double dragon gatherings, ending up last in the middle 3 sect stage, but nothing a puny and insignificant lower 3 sect could ever compare to. Oh, so you're the runt. Afraid you might end up kicked further down, you came to beg for mercy, is that it? Fan snickered. Ha, what a good little doggy, wag your tail for master. But you're missing the right attitude when begging. You'll never get any attention if you keep barking and snarling. Bastard. Two shouts sounded in unison, one from the young master and the other from the elder. Oh. Pressure had come at Zhuofan. The elder was furious and shot a palm attack toward his head. Zhuofan only squinted, standing his ground like a statue and awaiting this reckless old fool's death. Humph, you've gone senile if you think you can beat me in the 5th layer ethereal stage. Bam. The old man's attack never reached Zhuofan as Fiend Yang blocked the palm. They both staggered 5 steps back before stopping. The old man glared at Fiend Yang, who hurriedly waved his hands. Ha, Elder Qi, Zhuofan hasn't been at the fights today. He doesn't know your sect's situation. He wasn't trying to offend your great sect with his ignorance. Please forgive him. Ignorant? Then what did he mean by his last words? What dog? Elder Qi grunted. Put on the spot, Fiend Yang chuckled. Zhuofan had the same stoic face as he said, Then why have you come here? We came to warn you to know your place and don't participate in the challenge stage. Just stand aside and watch before you humiliate yourself. The young master mocked Zhuofan. Zhuofan sneered, Isn't that the same thing? Why would you bother coming here to run your mouths if you aren't scared of us? That only means you're scared. If that is the case, try to at least act like it. Stop with the tough act. I ain't buying it. Why you? The young master was burning with rage and shot his 2 green friends a signal. The 2 nodded and went for Qi Changlong, Bai Lian and Wuxia, the strongest disciples. The trio was on guard, knowing they couldn't be careless against these 2, having the same cultivation as them, 3rd layer ethereal stage. But then the 2 vanished and appeared behind them with a palm attack. Bang! 3 explosions sounded and Qi Changlong with the other 2 was sent flying, bleeding from their mouths. As for the 2 in green, they were back in their spots. Zhuofan's heart tensed. A combined attack again. Humph, let this be a warning to you. If you dare meet us on stage, I won't care if we're sects from the same empire. We'll slaughter you. The youth flicked his hand and he left with his friends in green and elder. Qi Changlong and the others barely got to their feet, their eyes filled with hatred. Zhuofan calmed down and said, Will you let them have it? We'll give them shit. Why the hell would we do what they want anyway? We'll be the middle 3 sect when we throw them back. Fiend Yang snorted, Zhuofan, remember this well. That cocky kid is Ren Kong. He is sect leader Ren's son. You can teach him any lesson you want except killing him. As for the rest, you decide. But those 2 in green are Tsong Shan and Tsong Lin. They train in the mountain and forest shadow. Their location isn't constant, and they are hard to avoid. They almost scored 2 wins from Sword God sect in today's battles. But they met with Gentle Sword Wen Tao. If not, just by score alone they would have Demon Soul sect beaten and in second place since Demon Soul sect only had 1 point over them. Thank you, Demon Soul sect, for bringing him to me. See how I'll kick them out of the middle 3 sections. Zhuofan snickered and turned to the rest. Tomorrow we'll be fighting together. Roar. The others cheered. After taking a round off of fighting, Steward Zhuo was back in action. Hump, cocky brat of heaven trailing sect, your days are numbered. Meanwhile, Ren Tsong and the other 3 looked smug about their success. Elder Qi, the kid isn't much after all. You went to attack, yet he just stood still like a moron. Tsong Shan and Tsong Lin attacked those disciples and he still didn't help. Our fears were unfounded, haha. The 4 came to the demon scheming sect to warn them and test the waters. They hadn't seen Zhuofan fight and came to probe him. A shame their testing not only ended up fruitless but even managed to yank the enemy's chain into biting them back harder. They failed because of their stupidity. But the biggest irony was they were oblivious of it. Chapter 656, Chu Shen. Chapter 656, Chu Shen. Proofreader, Papatonks. But they say that Zhuofan obliterated beast-taming sect's disciples with 1 fist, even the elder. It can't be that he could not even react to my palm attack. Elder Qi found it suspicious. Ren Tsong saw it too but waved off his suspicions. No need to think too hard about him, Elder Qi. Zhuofan is only at the 3rd layer radiant stage. How strong can he be? The rumors must be exaggerated. Why else would he suddenly sit out when every sect was there to see him? I bet he was scaring the middle 3 sects' disciples into surrendering when it came to fighting him. Only petty people resort to petty tricks. As for beast-taming sect's elder's death, Exalted Double Dragons already announced he broke the rules for attacking the guests and was executed by Exalted Hei Ran. It had nothing to do with that punk. I bet it's just another rumor he instigated to scare others. But not me, yours truly won't fall for it, ha. Elder Chi regarded Ren Song and nodded in the end. Young master is wise. I must have gotten too old to fall for a kid's trick. The new is replacing the old, ha. Ren Song was extra full of himself, looking at the two youths, Song Shan, Song Lin, in tomorrow's fights. If the others bought it, make sure you kill Zhuo Fan at once to break their spirit and show everyone what a liar he is. Leave the rest for after, alright? Understood, young master. The two nodded. Ren Song's smile grew wider. Tomorrow, everyone would see how they fell for the kid's inflated lies. Only I, Ren Song from Heaven Trailing Sect, saw the truth. Since strength can't beat him, I'll use intelligence, he. On the morning of the second day, the arena was packed. Even though it was the middle 3 sects challenge stage, the superior 3 sects also showed up. Only this time they were curious about 2 people. One was the darkest horse of all times, hailing from Demon Scheming Sect, Zhuo Fan. The other was one who they paid even more attention to, since not just him but his entire sect was the strongest among the middle 3 sects, Gentle Sword Wen Tao from Sword God Sect. Haha, the ever-dauntless superior 3 sects for thousands of years are now stirred. But the one to climb isn't Demon Scheming Sect, but Sword God Sect. I wonder who is going to take the fall. Wu Qingqiu chuckled, watching the flood of people coming in. Yenimo was there too. What's the point in asking? The most likely sect to drop is the Universal Righteous Sect. That's what it gets for always being last. Are you so sure it's going to be last this time too? Wu Qingqiu raised an eyebrow. Yenimo nodded without delay. Of course, it has always been like this. The number 1 spot among the superior 3 sects was always fought between us 2 sects, while the Universal Righteous Sect was just the wheel. I don't mind if they were last or even if we are last. I just hope that guy gets to fight with me already. That's all I wanted. One can never find peace unless he fights one's destined rival. Yi Lin was bored to death, looking for his target from the audience. Yenimo asked, "Hey, I feel like sparring with you." You? Yi Lin mocked, "No point now, Shu." You? Yenimo choked and Wu Qingqiu laughed. Whoosh. The judge once more made his appearance on stage, bowing before the empty air. Welcome, Exalted. Welcome, Exalted. The rest of the people bowed as well. Exalted double dragons appeared in their seats of honor and gestured for them to be seated. Exalted Heiran spoke, "Begin." Middle 3 sects and lower 3 sects, enter the arena. The judge shouted. Sword God Sect, Demon Soul Sect and Heaven Trailing Sect walked into view. After them came Mystical Heaven Sect and Demon Scheming Sect. Seeing Zhuo Fan and his team's lead, he did not look like he would be sitting back this time. The people lit up, knowing he would be fighting. Yenimo, Wu Qingqiu and the others were excited as well. Wu Qingqiu really wanted to know what this kid could do to earn his freaky junior brother's high evaluation. Wen Tao grinned at Zhuo Fan, filled with fighting spirit. "Zhuo Fan, your reputation precedes you. We'll finally get a glimpse at your skills. I wonder if you'll live up to your name." "Fight me and you'll see." Zhuo Fan rolled his eyes. Wen Tao paused, then nodded, "I'll be waiting." Han Yunfeng stared at Zhuo Fan, then finally said, "Well met, Zhuo Fan, I am Demon Soul Sect's eldest young Mas Dash." "Big young Han." Zhuo Fan cut him off, earning a few snickers from Demon Scheming Sect and Demon Soul Sect. Smiley face play on the words big equals eldest. Han Yunfeng coughed and said, "I am Han Yunfeng. Because of my father's harsh teachings, he only gave us 3 brothers' names after age 5, depending on our strength. Only the strongest earned his name, while the rest didn't have one. That is why only I have one. They are the second son and third son." "Oh, your dad sure is cruel. That's a demonic sect leader for you." Zhuo Fan nodded, then a question nagged at him. If the sect leader is cruel to such a degree, does he not feel any love for his sons? Ugh, the demonic path is filled with mysteries. Han Yunfeng said, "I planned to fight you in the Double Dragon Gathering, but I reconsidered. It's unwise to do something you already know you'll fail. So despite some regrets, if you want to challenge us, Demon Soul Sect will have to refuse your invitation." Zhuo Fan's brow shook, giving him another look of admiration. The kid knows when to call it quits like a true man of ambition does. And he is a sect leader's son too. Quite unlike a certain someone. Zhuo Fan's eyes drifted to Ren Song, who had a constant sneer on his face. "Fool, he has you believing a lie. You're still falling for his bluff?" Zhuo Fan shook his head, scratched his nose, and gave him a moment of silence in tribute. Exalted double dragons saw Zhuofan on the scene and were startled. They shared a glance and nodded. They were under the impression Zhuofan was too strong this early in the competition, but after watching the middle three sects stage, they realized the disciples this time were anything but weak. Without Zhuofan's help, Demon Scheming Sect would have nothing to fight with today, effectively going against their fair judging of the sect's potential. Therefore they allowed Zhuofan to fight. Zhuofan glanced up and noticed their faint nod, knowing he was free to let loose. He was on a roll. In the lower three sects singles, the Mystical Heaven Sect won. In the team matches, the Demon Scheming Sect won. By the Double Dragon Gatherings rules, Mystical Heaven Sect can take the initiative to challenge another sect only in the single matches, while Demon Scheming Sect can only challenge other sects in the team battles. Sects, who will you challenge? The judge turned to the teams. Elder Yun bowed. My Mystical Heaven Sect has always been under the Heaven Trailing Sect's guidance. And while we had the fortune to take first place in this time's lower three sect stage, we only wish to hold our position and not offend any middle three sect. Mystical Heaven Sect refuses to make a challenge. Bootlicker. Everyone there felt like retching at this slick old man's words. He's kissing ass at his age? Has he no shame? What Heaven Trailing Sect guiding you? You're just its dog. The girls blushed in shame under the contempt of the crowd. They looked at Elder Yun filled with resentment. We're still a sect. So why must we sell our dignity and become someone else's lapdog? Only Rin Tsong felt like he got even more full of himself, nodding like it was natural. Zhuofan found Elder Yun's action admirable. He has no damn ounce of shame, just like me back in the day. Since he turned the loss into a win, Zhuofan had noticed Elder Yun's patience and scheming mind. Playing the innocent while the play was in disfavor, then striking when the moment was right. He might look like he was ingratiating and shaming himself, but he was, in fact, the Heaven Trailing Sect's most dangerous servant. When the master lost its focus on this dog, the dog would definitely go for the master's throat. That's the definition of flexible. The judge turned to Demon Scheming Sect. Zhuofan stepped out before Fiend Yang could speak. Fight, of course. While the Mystical Heaven Sect could only submit, the Demon Scheming Sect had gone beyond this level, ready to kick these rampant middle sects off their throne and take the crown for ruling Tianyu's three guardian sects for itself. Chapter 657. Mountain and Forest Shadow. Chapter 657. Mountain and Forest Shadow. Proofreader, Papatonks. Zhuofan's determined voice echoed in the ears of everyone in the arena, filling them with excitement and expectations. Especially the nation's representatives. The 9 sects in the Western lands had been stuck in their respective rankings for thousands of years. It all became foggy. When exactly was the last time an underdog tried punching above its status? Now they were witnessing history in the making. Everyone was thrilled and eager for a good show. The teams from every sect had known this was coming and were watching in anticipation. Only Rin Tsong's face fell, glaring at Zhuofan like he was an abomination on this earth. A tiny demon scheming sect like you dares to challenge your superiors? Humph, you're going to pay for it. Mark my words. Turning to Tsong Shan and Tsong Lin, Rin Tsong nodded and gave them the signal. In all honesty, they were shaken by the Demon Scheming Sect's team for a good reason. With 6 in the ethereal stage, their side only had himself and the twins. In other words, besides him in the second layer ethereal stage, and the brothers in the third layer ethereal stage, the other 7 disciples in the radiant stage could hardly pose a challenge. They were the only 3 who could put up a fight and score a win. So why was it that even though Demon Soul Sect had only Han Yunfeng and the second young Master Han as their sole 2 ethereal stage experts, they were still above them in rank? It was their overall strength that made all the difference. The hope of keeping their name rested entirely on Tsong Shan and Tsong Lin dealing with 6 ethereal stage experts. As such, striking first and hard to cripple the enemy's morale was a tested tactic through the ages. The Tsong brothers' eyes flickered coldly, fixing Zhuofan in their sights. Zhuofan raised an eyebrow. His thoughts were mocking them. It's obvious that their target is me. He shook his head and sighed. Ignorance sure is bliss. Since the Demon Scheming Sect has decided to challenge, please enter the Sumeru dimension. First will be lower 3 sect Demon Scheming Sect versus middle 3 sect Heaven Trailing Sect in a team battle. Smiley face Sumeru is the center of all Buddhist cosmology's physical, metaphysical, and spiritual universes. The judge shouted at the crowd. Then 2 familiar figures appeared on the stage. They were none other than the elders posing as gatekeepers of Double Dragon Manor. Their hands worked through the gestures quickly, and with a bang they shot their hands forth. The space in front rippled like a curtain about to be lifted. As the ripples took form, the 2 elders grabbed what looked like seams and pulled with all their strength until the veins on their arms bulged outward. Creak. The space was split apart with a heavy sound to reveal a new world. The view presented a magnificent valley with a tall and imposing mountain behind it, covered in a lush and beautiful forest. This world's limits were so vast that one could not even see the edges. Such a considerable expanse could easily accommodate a battle against armies in the hundreds of thousands, not just a measly 20 people. Turning back to the audience, the judge said, "The disciples of the 2 sects are to enter. You are free to fight to your heart's content." Zhuofan nodded and was the first to walk forward, but someone gave a taunting snort just before he entered the barrier. "Ha, what a grand world. I bet this will be your first time seeing it since you've never had a team battle. But don't even think about hiding in this vast world. We've been here so many times. We know it better than you." Ren Tsong snickered at Zhuofan. Zhuofan mocked, "You took the words right out of my mouth. Not like if you hide it will change anything. We'll just be taking a little more time. Come to think of it, I can't remember the last time I played cat and mouse. I should relish the moment, haha. We'll see who plays with who here." Ren Tsong just had to have the last word. But those who knew Zhuofan's real strength looked at him like he was an idiot. "I say, I don't think I've ever seen anyone so quick and excited to die. Life must be tough for him." Zhuofan shook his head with a mocking smile as he entered the world. His team snickered and followed right after. Ren Tsong gave the Tsong twins a signal, and the 2 nodded. They shot into the barrier, soon followed by the rest of their team. Soon, everyone entered the fray, leaving behind a faded image from inside to let the audience know how it progressed. Whoosh! Zhuofan was the first to appear in a small valley, with demon-scheming sects disciples behind him, gawking. The spiritual energy in this valley was thick, tens of times better than in Double Dragon Manor. Cultivating here was paradise. Double Dragon Manor is the strongest sect in Western lands to have such a great place. However, Zhuofan raised an eyebrow as he looked around in curiosity. The spiritual energy is too thick. There's no way a simple spiritual gathering array can do this. It seems there are world crystals here. Maybe. Zhuofan's brow furrowed. In a dark corner of this world, Dan Qingshen's eyes stared over with a flickering gaze. Whoosh! Suddenly, as the demon-scheming sect team was stunned by the world around them, 2 familiar men appeared in front. They were Tsong Shan and Tsong Lin. But they did just keep on coming at Zhuofan, who just cocked an eyebrow. They did not attack, passing through him and coming before the 6 ethereal stage experts. "Mountain and forest shadow, the mountain." Tsong Shan growled. Smiley face Shan equals lit. Mountain. As he finished, his body glowed in an earthly yellow light, his strength surging so much at the same time it felt like he was pushing the heavens aside. The others squinted and cried, hurried to fight back the twin attackers in the form of a combined palm. In an instant, the 6 ethereal stage experts' powerful palm attack rolled at the twins like a huge boulder. Tsong Lin's eyes flashed and he made a sign. "Mountain and forest shadow, the forest." Smiley face Lin equals lit. Forest. A green image formed, draping over the 2 like a curtain, starting with a green glow spreading around. Just in time to welcome the 6th attack. But instead of pushing through the green image, it only grew weaker as the curtain wiggled and swiveled, nullifying the attack's momentum. Then with a bounce it kicked back the 6 palm strikes at the attackers. At the same time the lofty yellow power also fused with it. In an instant, a prismatic attack of incredible power came for the 6 people. They were caught off guard by the attack and scattered around like bowling pins, up to 100 meters away. Eyes squinting, the 6 could hardly believe what had happened. They were astounded how 2 ethereal stage experts could push back 6 others. While it looked like each side was taking their time and moving to strike just now, it all happened in the blink of an eye. In other words, in just one move, the 6 were defeated by 2 people with the same cultivation as 3 of theirs. Even the audience outside was shocked by this development. The combined attacks of the twins were indeed impressive. They were at an advantage against 6 enemies. Only Sword God Sect and Demon Soul Sect, who fought them, understood how deadly the duo was. No way your average ethereal stage expert could fight them. They could fight as many as 10 opponents. In other words, while in singles they could get 4 points at most, their full potential had no limit in a team battle. 4 demons scheming sect to challenge heaven trailing sect to a team battle was entering their domain. Mountain and forest shadow combines reality with illusion, switching between force and flexibility. It is as strong as a relentless assault, crushing anything in its path, and as flexible as a raging torrent blowing them away. The two make a truly rare team. Looking at the screen, Wen Tao squinted and smiled. When we fought the duo, we also seemed to have taken a long time to win. Qianshang, how long do you think it will take your old friend to beat them? Wen Tao asked Xie Qianshang, who turned pensive for a moment before he shook his head. Zhuofan is a monster, exceptionally gifted and advancing at unimaginable speeds. I haven't seen him in years, so I cannot tell how strong he has become. 15 minutes at most. The voice startled Wen Tao. Looking over, he saw Demon Soul Sect's Han Yunfeng with his eyebrows raised. Wen Tao chuckled. Brother, would you be kind enough to share what you know? It's not anything of real value anyway. We have fought Zhuofan and the Tsong twins before. And even though we lost in both cases, we knew who was the true master among them. Han Yunfeng took a deep breath. Song Shan and Song Lin used at least 90% of their power when they fought us, while Zhuofan less than a third, maybe just a fifth. Every move of his was casual yet unbelievably intricate. If we were to compare, the twins would be a lake while Zhuofan the sea. We cannot imagine anyone among the disciples here who can make him go all out. Oh, then I'll make sure to watch closely. If I'm not mistaken, Song Shan and Song Lin's attack on the 6 ethereal stage experts is a feint while their real target is him. What this brother said is true. Wen Tao's eyes shone like he knew everything. And sure enough, after the 6 were blown away, the twins turned around and went for Zhuofan. Chapter 658, Pulverized. Chapter 658, Pulverized. Proofreader, Papatonks. Oh ho, so they're after me, is it? They wanted first to take care of the pesky flies before they came for me, ha. Despite the two coming at him with murder in their eyes, Zhuofan replied to their savage glares with a faint smile. For the audience, it was the moment they had all been waiting for. Wen Tao and Han Yunfeng were also eager to see how Zhuofan would put the tough and flexible twins in their place. Whoosh! Darting around a few times, the two closed in on Zhuofan as their hands weaved gestures. Mountain and forest shadow, the crushing mountain. Boom. With Song Shan's shout, a yellow light shot straight for Zhuofan like a raging bull. Such destructive power was enough to pulverize even the body of an ethereal stage expert. Mountain and forest shadow, the spreading forest. As green light pervaded and rippled forward, Song Lin's eyes flashed, his hands making signs as he followed his brother to strike down Zhuofan. Wen Tao's brow shook. The two sure are paranoid about being so cautious around Zhuofan. They're using a different attack than they used on the 6. When dealing with the 6 ethereal stage experts, Song Shan used power to shake the 6's attack's momentum while Song Lin used time to store up the attack as we saw. So the 6 palm attacks were all guided under the green ripples, turned back at the attackers. So in truth, the 6 did not lose to the 2's power but their own. Han Yunfeng nodded, but this time they switched tactics. Song Shan became more forceful like an earthquake while Song Lin forewent deflecting attacks for dispersion. If Zhuofan came at them with force, his attack would be useless, being redirected away from them. This combination is truly a great blend of power and flexibility, covering attack and defense. Wen Tao smiled and nodded. It truly is a pesky little tactic, but do you know why they decided on using it? Fear. Since storing power has its limits. Having not seen Zhuofan's attack, they at least heard of it. So if the power was truly that overwhelming, Song Lin had no way to contain it, leaving them crushed. To make sure that didn't happen, he chose to deflect. Han Yunfeng analyzed. Wen Tao sneered and nodded. Right you are. No matter how amazing their skills are, even they pale against relentless force. It depends on Zhuofan's punch and how strong it is. Will he withstand Song Shan's brutal attack after Song Lin's deflection? By the way, you've seen Zhuofan's punch, so what do you think of it? See for yourself. The Han brothers returned to the screen. Stingy. Wen Tao shrugged and kept watching the events unfolding. Song Shan and Song Lin were right in Zhuofan's face. The mighty yellow power was seconds away from blasting him, yet Zhuofan wasn't doing anything, just standing there. The audience was at the edge of their seats for what was about to happen to Zhuofan. Will the legend of the darkest horse in history fizzle out here and now? The Tsong twins sneered. I knew it, the punk was nothing but talk all along. He's nothing. We are almost upon him, about to rob his life, yet he doesn't do anything. This proves the rumors were exaggerated. He's either scared to death or can't even react. He's no expert. What expert would just let himself be pushed in a corner anyway? While the two were giggling to themselves for having this in the bag, a soft buzzing came, and the two scalps tingled for some odd reason. The earth started disintegrating 100 meters around Zhuo Fan from the high-frequency vibrations. Song Shan's yellow attack was just about to strike. A pity disintegrated the next moment into nothing. At the same time, Song Lin's green light curtain started sporting black lines, running through it like a spiderweb before it collapsed. The two's eyes shook and their hearts fell. They jumped back at once, looking at the still unmoving Zhuo Fan in shock and awe. They watched as the rest of their attacks crumbled before their eyes. Even before they got out of the 100-meter range, it had vanished. Moreover, two wails of pain pierced the skies as in that instant their attacks fell through. They were also just one moment too late to clear the area. One hand from each of them was chipped away at high speeds before they also vanished. All that was left behind was blood dripping from the stumps, a testament to the vibration's power. What the hell was that? SSS. Watching how everything in 100 meters of Zhuo Fan was pulverized, the audience gasped at the spectacle. Wen Tao and company were even bug-eyed. Even exalted Double Dragon's eyes twitched in amazement. Just what is this astonishing martial art? It is beyond belief. Zhuo Fan's right eye flashed with 4 golden halos, and his mouth perked into a condescending smile. Divine Eye of the Void's 4th stage, Absolute Domain, Space Crusher. The twins looked at each other and their gazes hardened. Zhuo Fan had been keeping to himself to a ridiculous degree. Who the hell is he? It's not just about strength. Just how the hell does he know such baffling skills? Glossing over their obvious shock, Zhuo Fan closed one eye and stopped the attack. His mouth traced a wide, bright smile as he jumped straight for the two. The twins thought about running away. Zhuo Fan's left hand turned into a dragon claw as it pursued Song Lin while his right eye flashed golden twice with void annihilation, aiming for Song Shan. Song Lin felt a chill down his spine. He's not just what the rumors painted him, but far more terrifying. They had no chance whatsoever. Though it was a bit late for regrets, they could only choke on it since they bit more than they could chew. Helpless, Song Lin had no other choice than to fight, shouting, mountain and forest shadow, the spreading forest. Another ripple traveled from Song Lin with a green hue. Wraith Style's second move, Ghostly Dragon Claw. Zhuo Fan snickered and went straight for it with a grab. However, Ghostly Dragon Claw's power faded just as the ripple grew unstable. How amusing. Zhuo Fan smiled and let purple lightning flicker through the claw. As the purple lightning passed, the already strong claw gained an edge. Crash. With a huge bang, the green light around Song Lin's body was decimated, along with Song Lin's frail body. Blood splattered everywhere, gore squelching as it touched the ground. Zhuo Fan's claw had turned a human being in a shower of blood and giblets. The audience gasped and cried. Yi Lin's eyes squinted, piqued by the appearance of purple lightning. I was right after all. That's... Zhuo Fan stepped again with one down and closed in on Song Shan. Watching his brother reduced to fertilizer, Song Shan was scared out of his mind. But even if he ran, could he escape the likes of Zhuo Fan? Seeing Zhuo Fan upon him, he could only stake it all. Mountain and forest shadow, the crushing mountain. Boom. He pushed out both his palms as he shouted. With a loud rumble, the yellow power rolled forward, like a 1,000-meter-tall mountain, straight for Zhuo Fan. Such a blow would render anyone's body to a pulp. A shame he wasn't dealing with just anyone. In the face of Zhuo Fan and his soaring Qilin arm famed through the world for its unmatched strength, he might as well be attacking with a toothpick. Zhuo Fan's mouth split into a nasty grin. His right hand flashed as he punched. Boom. The earth-shaking sound came from Zhuo Fan's sacred arm striking the yellow power the same way towering waves fell upon a sand castle. It crushed it to harmless motes of light. What came next was a relentless gale that ripped at Song Shan's body. His figure was gone and replaced with a red cloud, raining down thick crimson droplets into red rivulets. It was clear to all this was the miserable ending. Chapter 659, Rain Checked. Chapter 659, Rain Check. Proofreader, Papatonks. The once excited audience gawked. With how many of them were seeing Zhuo Fan's handiwork for the first time, they were still reeling over how such a monster existed. His power was out of this world. Everyone bore testament to the twins' strength last time. They were no less than the level of the superior 3 sects disciples that proved to be a thorn in many of the middle 3 sects disciples' sides. Yet these brave and bright geniuses were squashed to nothing at Zhuo Fan's hands with the lightest of actions and in the most horrendous way possible. Zhuo Fan's display had everyone shaking in their seats. Even those that witnessed Zhuo Fan's punch were still unnerved. That strike was unintended and random, while in this fight the strikes were done with purpose and resolve. The constant show of baffling martial arts had left the people thrilled. Every time I see him, it feels like he's a new man, a new abomination. It puts all my effort into cultivation over the years to shame. Even if I were to fight him, I still can't beat him. Xie Qianshang shook his head and sighed. Wen Tao's face twitched. Qianshang, what the hell had your friend been eating to end up like this? He's inhuman. And you, Han Yunfeng, didn't you say he's going to take 15 minutes against the twins? He barely took a second. How should I know? Han Yunfeng rolled his eyes. I told you he's terrifying. I bet the last punch wasn't even his all. I just can't imagine where all his strength ends. How could a freak like him be allowed in the Double Dragon gathering anyway? How are we supposed to compete with that? Wen Tao eyed him and gave a firm nod of approval. Then his face fell as he spoke bitterly, for crying out loud. I had confidence that many of my plans to deal with the demon scheming sect would work. But how the hell will any of them work when they have such a freak? Humph, ignorance is bliss. That so-called confidence was nothing but blind faith. Han Yunfeng mocked. Wen Tao glared, then sighed. Others had it worse. Heaven Trailing Sect's elder thought the challenge match with Demon Scheming Sect would still go to them. Now though, victory was the last thing on his mind. His team was going to be slaughtered. That valley was a hellscape, fraught with one certain and imminent danger that would pull everyone in, Zhuo Fan. And to make matters worse, their leader Ren Tsong is completely oblivious to it. And that was the truth of it. In that world, Ren Tsong had warned the twins to go for Zhuo Fan from the start rather than picking up the leftovers from Demon Scheming Sect. However, the fight was already over. This mighty young Master Ren and the other disciple had not received any message either, a testament to how brief the fight was. Elder Qi was most worried that the young master was still stubbornly holding on to his belief that the enemy was showboating. That's suicide. Elder Qi felt like crying, his heart in a mess. The rumors were true, if not failing to live up to his power. The punk is a terrifying existence. Wu Qingqiu took a deep breath and sighed. His reputation precedes him. Zhuo Fan is outstanding. There might not even be many from the superior 3 sects who can take the twins on, yet this guy did it like nothing. You haven't seen anything yet. Wait till he becomes a true savage. That's when you'll see his power. Yan Mo recalled his miserable experience and sighed. We didn't even get to see his soul yet. Wu Qingqiu cried. Soul? He's in the radiant stage and already formed his soul? Oh please, how the hell is he supposed to fight an ethereal stage expert if he didn't have a soul formed? I figured he has some defensive soul treasure on him. That and his incredibly strong body are what helped him score wins. At least that's how it looked until now. But if he has a soul formed, Wu Qingqiu's face was heavy. Glancing over, Yan Mo sighed. Here's a newsflash for you. He doesn't just have a soul form, but it is also something incredible. How do you know? Did you see it? Wu Qingqiu looked at him hard. He nodded, then shook his head. What I mean is, I sort of saw it and didn't. At that time he only half released it. Yet that was enough to almost take my life. If not for the girl in his arms stopping him, I wouldn't be here talking to you. You fought him and lost. Wu Qingqiu gasped. He knew just how strong Yan Mo was, while not better than him of course, but he was a true expert in the Western lands. The best genius in Western lands could beat him, no problem, but getting him to leave his life was another matter. It was this expert that almost got culled by Zhuo Fan's power. Just what level is this guy at anyway? Wu Qingqiu turned a startled face at Yi Lin. Junior brother, your opponent is freakishly strong. Of course. How else is he to match me? Yi Lin grinned excitedly. I told you, none of you are worthy of fighting him except me. Because we are destined rivals, he he he. Wu Qingqiu gave him a long look, then nodded. Meanwhile, Zhuo Fan finished dealing with 2 flies and started looking around with a devious smile. Zhuo Fan's eye twitched and charged forward. He clawed at some bush and grabbed a mote of green, Song Lin's soul. Zhuo Fan's right eye flashed golden again, and the mote vanished. Then he disappeared again, appearing high on a tree's branch. He swiped his hand and caught a yellow mote this time. It was Zhong Shan's soul. With one last disappearing act, Zhuo Fan was back to his original spot, but this time with an extra nasty grin on his lips as he said to the two motes in his hands. Go ahead, run. Did you think I didn't see you slipping away when your bodies were pulverized? And you, Zhong Shan, what the hell were you doing perched up there under a bird's butt? Are you trying to become a chick in your next life? Demon scheming sex disciples snickered over. The two souls were shaking in fear. You picked the wrong guy to mess with this time. You up and challenged Steward Zhuo and got what's coming to you. Ah, the Kuei Lang patted the two souls and mocked them. The others laughed along. The Tsong twins were ashamed, crying out in anger. You destroyed our bodies and now you dare kill us? We are from the Heaven Trailing Sect, the head of Tianyu's 3 guardian sects. Head my ass. When we kick you down a notch, we'll be the head. Ah, Zhuo Fan grabbed the two and knocked them into each other so hard they saw stars. The rest were laughing even harder now. In flashes of light, Ren Tsong and his gang entered the stage. Seeing the demon scheming sect team laughing and joking, Ren Tsong looked around puzzled. Where are Tsong Shan and Tsong Lin? Did they get sent to a different area? The plan was to go after Zhuo Fan to catch him off guard the minute they got here. But now there was no sight of them and the chance was lost. As for the two in question being defeated, that never crossed his mind. He wasn't one to entertain such flights of fancies. The two managed to make it hard against all other middle 3 sects, so how would they get done in a flash? But the cruel reality was he couldn't even register what was before him. He just had to mess with the wrong person. Are you thinking they should have been on me the moment they came here? Zhuo Fan mocked. Ren Tsong's brow shook, and he looked at Zhuo Fan incredulously. How does he know that? Zhuo Fan grinned as if he had read his mind, then shook his head as he extended his palms holding the two motes. Because they did it just now. A shame they lost, ha. Zhuo Fan squeezed, and under Ren Tsong's shocked eyes, he watched as the two cried their last and scattered into the air. From now on, the head of Tianyu's 3 guardian sects has changed. Zhuo Fan squinted. Qi Changlong and the others behind him snickered, strutting for Ren Tsong's team with taunts and jeers. From now on, Tianyu's first guardian sect was taking a rain check. Chapter 660, Sacred Mind. Chapter 660, Sacred Mind. Proofreader, Papatonks. Ren Tsong squinted as he jerked in fright. It blew his mind and all his understanding that Tsong Shan and Tsong Lin should charge one enemy only to be squeezed to nothing in the enemy's hands. Such a display left him crushed. And with his hopes gone, that left nothing but fear when he looked at Zhuo Fan. He never saw Zhuo Fan in action, but this was enough to get it through his thick skull that the rumors were true enough to get him killed. He is a monster I can't mess with. A shame he had done it already. However, he had more present and serious matters to worry about, like the ever-approaching Qi Changlong and his friends with cold smiles. Now even without Zhuo Fan's help, the 6 ethereal stage experts against the only ethereal stage expert on his side, him and damn radiant stage experts, the rest could do nothing to curb the fear they all felt. Ren Tsong was sweating buckets, his mouth fell and he teared up. His teammates looked at their young master with pleading gazes. Even as they knew their young master was in the same boat as them. Qi Changlong was coming down on them with a savage grin, snapping his finger joints as he made fists. Ren Tsong kept staggering away filled with sweat. Young Master Ren, who is the cat and who is the mouse, I wonder? Zhuo Fan snickered. Ren Tsong gnashed his teeth and turned red in anger. The punk is mocking me. Zhuo Fan shook his head and smiled. That's right, I'm here to shame you, but on account of your exquisite manner yesterday, I am inclined to give you a chance. In a team battle, the rule says that the door outside will open after 6 hours, and the fight finishes regardless of the outcome. So didn't you say you're quite familiar with the area? So be a good mouse and scurry along for a hidey hole. And if we find you all in the next 6 hours, then it's only right that the cat gets to eat its prize, ha. Demon scheming sex disciples cracked up, filled with contempt for them. Steward Zhuo wanted to toy with them to their last breath. He's the same as Yen Mo. The audience chuckled and sighed. Such is the way of demonic cultivators. All demonic cultivators are the same, I see. They just love making a show out of their savagery. Ah, Wen Tao shook his head. Han Yunfeng glanced over and said, This is called absolute power. You think you'll see something like this in an equal match? True cruelty only shows when one side has an overwhelming advantage. Maybe Zhuo Fan is telling the others through this act that they shouldn't mess with them no matter how strong they are. When Tao sighed, Han Yunfeng grinned, then will you still stand in his way? Regardless of the outcome, I would be happy to know I could fight such an expert. Han Yunfeng's heart shook and fell silent. When Tao's words cut deep. Fighting a losing battle was unwise. From the sect's standpoint, retreat was welcomed against an impossible adversary. However, to a cultivator whose nature was to go against the natural order, they should fight regardless of adversity and brave any dangers. Having been close to the leadership of a sect, he had forgotten this simple truth, the basic nature of a cultivator. If he balked in fear against this mighty opponent, how would he progress in his cultivation? Suddenly, his eyes focused and flicked in Zhuo Fan's direction. It seems I was mistaken. Wen Tao eyed him and nodded with a smile. That's how a demonic sect's young master should be. 10, 9, 8, Zhuo Fan lifted his arm and started the countdown. Kuei Lang and company grinned in Ren Tsung's direction, waiting for them to flee like rats. I have never been more insulted in my entire life. Yet when it came to choosing between dignity and life, Ren Tsung could only think of himself as he ran like the wind under the audience's ridicule. The other disciples thought even less, going after their young master like good gophers. 3, 2, 1. Zhuo Fan's counting was slow, but it ended either way quickly. Kuei Lang and the others grinned as they began the hunt. They sure loved playing around at another's expense. But just as they started, Zhuo Fan's smirk started, "People, let's all relish the game." They looked at each other and nodded before vanishing. Zhuo Fan smiled and was gone as well. The little valley regained its tranquility once the game of cat and mouse began. The two gatekeepers closed their eyes, changing the screen outside the dimension by switching through the monitoring arrays already set up inside in search of any movement. It didn't take long for a heaven-trailing sect disciple to appear, frantic in his run for his life. He barely made a few steps as Wuxia came from behind. He pointed and green light shot his ankle. Then thick green energy spread from his heel to the rest of his body. Hi, run kitty run. The faster you go, the faster the poison spreads. And when it reaches your innards, you're done for. Wuxia cackled. The guy felt his heart beating out of his chest, and he was so scared he was close to soiling himself. Wuxia, however, was enjoying the moment of tormenting the poor devil. Ah! Noticing the green energy was almost at his thigh, he could no longer tarry. He instantly chopped his leg off and started jumping around in an attempt to flee. Wuxia sneered and shot another green light on the other leg. He was again forced to choose between his leg and his life. The guy was horrified and crying in indignity while Wuxia was taking his sweet time to see what he'd decide, to relish in his sweet torment. It took only half an hour for the guy to be without arms and legs. Finally, Wuxia cackled one last time and wiggled over. The audience sighed in sorrow. Exalted double dragons did the same, but out of boredom. Such an event was happening all over the place in that world. This was no longer a team battle but a one-sided slaughter. Just how on earth did heaven-trailing sect defend the demon-scheming sect to incur such cruel revenge? Holding their foreheads, the two exalted no longer bothered to watch and closed their eyes. However, none noticed that no matter how the view changed, Zhuo Fan was nowhere to be seen among the tortures. He had been gone ever since the hunt began. It was as if he was no longer in there. Whoosh! Deep in the forest, a figure appeared. The proud Zhuo turned around and nodded. Good, this must be the blind spot in the monitoring arrays. Then his hand held a sparkling and pure crystal, a sacred stone. The black energy curled from his hand around the sacred stone and slowly dissolved it. Zhuo Fan focused on the drifting spiritual energy, following its every shift. Then his eyes lit up in glee. Over there. He was gone once more. This time, Zhuo Fan was sidestepping the monitoring arrays while following the flow of spiritual energy from the sacred stone until he arrived before an unending mountain. The spiritual energy was so thick here it felt like the previous valley could not compare. To the point that the entire mountain range was like a bright azure dragon as it emitted spiritual energy. I knew it. This is a Western land's sacred mine. Who knew they'd sealed it up in here? Watching the distant mountain range, his heart shivered. The instant he got here, he was convinced that this place had to have a sacred mine. But since this was someone else's home, it was closely monitored. looking for their treasury under Double Dragon Manor's nose was asking for the noose. So the ingenious Zhuo Fan used heaven-trailing sex hunt to cover his tracks and let him inspect in peace. That was why he kept telling the disciples to take it real slow, to give him time to have his share of fun. Now that he was here, his doubts were cleared. Chapter 661, Sacred Weapon. Chapter 661, Sacred Weapon. Proofreader, Papatonks. From what Wuxia said, the 5 lands' sacred mines could only be exploited at the edges. Most of their ores are being protected by a strong array that can only be placed by the likes of experts from the sacred domain, who then, besides him, blowing himself up and ending up in the mortal domain, would fall so low. Moreover, the path to descend from the sacred domain was closed shut. Even a saint would find it hard to breach it, to say nothing of the others. In that case, the answer couldn't be more obvious. Squinting, Zhuo Fan pondered. This must be related to the 5 sacred beasts. Kunping had him look for the other sacred beasts while keeping young Sanzi hostage. That has to be it. Zhuo Fan looked around the place, then his brow shook. The sacred mine is so important that there are tens of monitoring arrays just 100 meters from it. Not to mention they are all discreetly set up. A shame you guys met me. When it comes to arrays, yours truly is your great-great-great ancestor, Humph. Grinning, Zhuo Fan's right eye flashed golden. Besides, you should now be drawn to watching Wuxia and the others' actions and have no attention to spare on me, Whoosh. With a snicker, Zhuo Fan vanished. He kept showing up and disappearing all over the mountain range, but all were spots where the monitoring arrays could not reach. Whoosh. Zhuo Fan finally stopped before the dimly lit mouth of a cave. As he entered, he did not trigger one of the hundreds of monitoring arrays outside. He sighed in relief. Zhuo Fan looked at the cave's walls filled with sparkling crystals shining in a faint light. The sheer density of the spiritual energy was so great it gave him goosebumps. His eyes lit up at the sight. This was the entrance to the sacred mine, and these crystals were the sacred stones the vein formed. All sacred mines had to be formed on top of a world array to condense such a high concentration of sacred stones. That meant that apart from the sacred array, the sacred mine was not suitable for setting up other arrays, or it would end up disturbed by the natural power of the world. Thus, Zhuo Fan was not worried there might be any monitoring or defensive arrays here. Unless, of course, they could set up sacred arrays, which was an impossibility in the mortal domain. So Zhuo Fan just waltzed in curiously. He wanted to see who this expert was and what kind of an array he set up to protect the sacred mine. He barely took a few steps and an ear-piercing ringing came. His eyes shook and Zhuo Fan stopped. What's going on? Is there someone inside? Carefully walking deeper, Zhuo Fan noticed that the ringing intensified. When he reached the end, he was stumped. A 2-meter-long sword covered in a prismatic haze floated just above the cave floor. It would sometimes shake and release a mesmerizing ringing sound. The rich spiritual energy from the sacred stones converged on the long sword. Like a newborn pup growing on the sweet milk, the long sword was also sustained under the sacred stone's care. Is that a sacred weapon? Zhuo Fan squinted and cried out. By the looks of it, it's even a 6th-grade sacred weapon, the strongest of the sacred domain. Above the 12th-grade spiritual weapons were the sacred weapons. Only a person from beyond the mortal domain could unleash this weapon's true might. And since sacred stones were needed to refine them, making such beauties was an extremely complicated process. They were a rarity even in the sacred domain. At least, when Zhuo Fan was the grand leader of the 8 emperors, he could only refine a 3rd-grade sacred weapon, and that was only in theory as well, having never actually done it. The materials weren't available everywhere either. Just going by the requirements of the sacred stone alone, he did not know just how many lands of the Sheng clan he had to cheat and how difficult it was to get them off his tail in the process. He never expected the tiny mortal domain to contain such a beauty, the legendary 6th-grade sacred weapon. Such a wonder made his little heart flutter. He had plenty of sacred stones on hand but no sacred weapon. Since he stumbled onto one, was he just going to pass by? Zhuo Fan grinned and walked towards it. Haha, I know that all sacred weapons have a conscience, so you must be able to understand me. Look, this place is so damp and gloomy with no sunlight ever getting in. Aren't you bored sitting here all day every day? Why not join me out to play? The sword understood Zhuo Fan's intention and shook faintly before emitting a sharp light. Wait. Zhuo Fan jumped back at once and waved his hands. I mean no harm and don't intend to take you for myself. I know sacred weapons need sacred stones to shine and replenish their energy. I have plenty of them with me. If you come with me, you get to soar in the endless sky as we travel the world and have your fill of all you can eat. I'll make sure to make you content. Zhuofan was like an uncle swindling children. He showed such an obscene smile too. His hand flashed and took out a sacred stone. See, I'm not lying. I can replenish your energy just as well in my ring. The only difference is that you can also come out to stretch your legs. Would you like to check my ring for yourself? If you don't like it, you're free to come out. You're a sacred weapon and I can't lock you up. Zhuofan tentatively showed his thunder ring in enticement. The longsword looked hesitant. It hummed and went still. Zhuofan knew he almost had it and was bursting with excitement. Holy hell, I'm about to have the strongest sacred weapon. This is both of my life's dreams come true. His trip to Double Dragon Gathering had paid off hundreds of times over. Even if he weren't forced by Xia Weiwei's task or Kuanping's threat, he'd have come here ages ago for this sweet trinket. However, just as Zhuofan was about to hoodwink the sacred weapon, a blue flame flared up from his thunder ring. At the same time, Zhuofan's forehead sported the same azure flame, his body crackled with purple lightning, and his right arm flashed crimson. What's going on? Startled, Zhuofan was stumped. A chilling bloodthirst swept the cave, and Zhuofan's heart tensed as he looked incredulously at the longsword. What just happened? We were getting to the good part, so why the sudden hostilities? He didn't have time to think as the longsword ruthlessly attacked him. Whoosh! With a cold glint, killing intent shot out of the longsword and reached Zhuofan in a blink. Zhuofan squinted and hurriedly raised his right to block it. The most astonishing thing happened. Zhuofan's invincible Qilin arm offered no resistance to the sword's attack. In a flash, gurgling blood flowed out of it, but Zhuofan was too stunned to realize it. How can this be? That was just sword energy, yet it pierced through a sacred beast's body. Just what on earth is a 6th-grade sacred weapon made of to be so strong? Whoosh. However, he had no time to ponder as the sword shook and rushed at Zhuofan, its blade shining in a dazzling light. Zhuofan was horrified. For the first time, Zhuofan was scared to death. Its sword energy was enough to pierce a sacred beast's body. So now that it came for him, how would he stop it? It was going to make mincemeat out of him. Zhuofan panicked, not knowing what to do. Just as the longsword reached him, he was hit by a stroke of genius. Since you can't beat them, flee? His right eye flashed golden, and Zhuofan had moved 100 meters away in a blink. As for the longsword, it lost its target and searched for him, unable to find him. When Zhuofan appeared again, the sword closed in on him in a blink. He cried out on the inside but did not dare to leave the cave, or those monitoring arrays would spot him. Zhuofan had no choice but to stay in this narrow cave and dodge the sword's attacks. This couldn't go on forever since his yuan qi would run out if he kept this up. At the same time, the sword would keep replenishing its stores in this sacred mine. Could go on forever. A fight for attrition was his worst gamble. For God's sake, I'll make another tunnel since there's no other path. I could use it to escape the monitoring arrays and take to the skies. With that thought in mind, Zhuofan dodged one more time, and his right eye flashed with 2 golden halos. Divine Eye of the Void, second stage, Void Annihilation. Bam! The space shook as the attack struck the cave wall, yet it bounced back. All the attack did was give the whole mountain range a good shake. Zhuofan narrowed his eyes and panicked. Does that mean that since this is a sacred mine, breaking the space is still not enough to break the layers of sacred stones? But that wasn't the end of his shock. The longsword was in front of him once more. Chapter 662, Subdued? Chapter 662, Subdued. Proofreader, Papatonks. Damn. Zhuofan narrowed his eyes and paled as his scalp went numb. At this very moment, the longsword was already on top of him, just a hair's breadth away. With Void Annihilation fizzling out, he had no more time to employ shift. His only fate was to be skewered to death. Well, there was one option left, to use the Void Annihilation that had yet to disperse and rout the longsword. Like that's ever going to happen. Regardless of Void Annihilation strength, it couldn't compare to the Qilin arm. If it got pierced by this thing's sword energy alone, how could a mere Void Annihilation block the longsword's attack? Zhuofan was at the end of the road. However, watching the longsword just about to tear him a new one, Fan could only grit his teeth and risk it all. It's worth a shot, even if it's for nothing. Fan's right eye flashed golden again. Divine Eye of the Void, second stage, Void Annihilation. Fan's right eye shot out a spatial ripple that collided with the longsword. Clang. It was like it hit metal. The longsword was pushed back by the blow. It flipped twice in midair before plunging into the wall filled with sacred stones. Fan was stunned, then he looked at his right arm, still bleeding heavily. With a flick of his hand he smashed a big hole in the wall next to him. Sure enough, the Qilin arm is way stronger than Void Annihilation. So why couldn't it defend against this sword while the latter could? Crack. As he was sinking into his thoughts, the cracking from the wall jerked him away. The long sword twisted around in the wall and was freaking wiggling out of the stone and charging for Fan one more time. Fan narrowed his eyes, his face solemn. He no longer hesitated to use Void Annihilation on the spot. Bam. The sword was spun through the air again on impact. With a deep frown, Fan was curious why the puny Void Annihilation succeeded where his prized Qilin arm failed. Maybe they're naturally opposites. Fan pondered over some more, and a realization struck him. Since Void Annihilation could handle it, what about the other skills of Divine Eye of the Void? Whoosh. The longsword was back again with a ferocious and far more savage attack than before. Fan narrowed his eyes, and this time Fan no longer panicked. He was like an old fox biding his time for his prey to fall into his trap. Finally, the longsword was within 100 meters, and Fan's right eye flashed golden 4 times. Divine Eye of the Void's 4th stage, Space Crusher. The whole cave shook, and the sacred stones littering the walls fell to the ground. But that was a mere jiggle, unlike how it usually behaved outside where it pulverized everything. It shows that a sacred mine is tough beyond reason. Fan nodded inside, then returned his attention to the incoming longsword. It was also shaking all over as it stopped approaching. All it could do was tremble and shake in the air. It couldn't even get near Fan to strike. Just as I thought, Divine Eye of the Void can restrain the sacred weapon. Fan's eyes narrowed, and his right eye flashed again in 3 golden halos. Divine Eye of the Void, 3rd stage, Mirage World. Suddenly the vibration stopped. Only the long sword was enveloped in invisible fluctuations preventing it from stabilizing itself. It spun around in place, unable to make heads or tails of what was happening around it. Humph, since you don't want to work with me and even tried killing me, there's no need for you to have consciousness. Fan's eyes flashed with killing intent. He knew fully well that sacred weapons had a mind of their own, and this one was no different, housing a spirit that controlled it. Now he and the sword spirit were at odds. He would have to crush the spirit if he wanted to obtain the sword's recognition. Therefore he was using illusions to control the sword spirit and calm it down. If a sacred weapon lost its sword spirit, its quality would fall sharply. He had to put another spirit in its place. Fan looked around, pensive. A flash of red came out of his body and sank into the longsword. Fan started making signs while shouting, Demon Transformation Art, turning the sword as one's own body, sword spirit renewal. Whoosh. Black tendrils of energy flashed over the longsword along with Blood Infant's creepy snicker. A cry of fear echoed out of the sword. It was the original sword spirit. However, because Fan suppressed its divine sense with Mirage World, it had no way to fight back even if it wanted to. As Fan used the Demon Transformation Art along with the Void Annihilation, the sword spirit slowly disintegrated, becoming nourishment for the new sword spirit. With a light ripple, the hovering long sword started trembling, and its previous glossy and impeccable blade now slowly took on a black color while crimson stripes spread over its surface, making it let out a sinister aura. Stopping Mirage World, Fan beckoned, and the sword fell into his hand. Looking closely at it, Fan smiled in satisfaction. Henceforth, the world has lost a 6th-grade sacred weapon, but it has gained a sacred demonic sword. Little guy, you shall now be the spirit of this sword and my Blood Infant, the strongest 6th-grade sacred demonic sword of the sacred domain. How awesome is that? How annoying I can't unleash even a fraction of what you're capable of, not as I am now at least. The sword shook, then it flew from Fan's grip. It spiraled in the air, and Blood Infant appeared in a flash of light. Then Blood Infant shot into Fan's body without so much as a peep. Fan started, then he shook his head. Little guy, are you trying to say that even if I can't use the sword, you're still one with me? Blood Infant simply rested in Zhuofan's body, like a child having gone to sleep. No wonder you've been my blood infant for so many years. You're so much better than some sword spirit. With you controlling the sacred weapon, I can rest easy, ha. Chuckling, Zhuofan's hand flashed, and a dozen sacred stones appeared, bringing them to his stomach. Though this sacred weapon needs sacred stones to replenish. Eat up, little guy, eat up and grow strong. Whoosh. The sacred stones vanished, and when he looked inside, he noticed Blood Infant had taken them. Zhuofan chuckled. With so many sacred stones in me, I hope I won't get kidney stones, ha. Wait, with so many sacred stones around, why the hell am I forking them out of my purse? Looking at the ground, it was now littered with sacred stones from all the shaking. He sighed. I'm so stupid. No harm was done since he would just take these pickings, which would be all the same. Zhuofan had no shame whatsoever. But then he noticed his still bleeding right hand and frowned, returning Dragon's roar. Roar. Following the roar, his hand was covered in a flash of green, filled with life, yet the Qilin arm was still wounded like before. Startled, Zhuofan frowned. Is it that the Qilin arm can't be healed, or maybe the wounds from a sacred weapon can't be healed? Since this was his first injury to the Qilin arm, Zhuofan was a little unsure. Never mind, I'll just let it recover with time. After so many years, I ended up bloody wounded in action. I best keep this under wraps or my actions here will be revealed. Holding some bandage, he wrapped it tight around his arm. Then he let his sleeve hide it before he went deeper into the cave. In the end, his main objective was to investigate the array. He wouldn't be at ease going back with just a sacred weapon. This is the place where the sacred mine is sealed. The cave couldn't be dug any further since it must have hit a wall. Touching the end of the tunnel, Zhuofan pondered. He noticed light flowing along the wall like some kind of barrier, covered in all kinds of symbols. His eyes widened. I knew it. The one who set this array up must be a master. It's so ingenious I can't find the slightest weakness. It's as if. Zhuofan narrowed his eyes. It is just like Lightning Canyons who trapped soaring Qilin. It can't be the same person or expert that set it up, right? That would mean this was another remnant of an emperor. Just what on earth happened in the mortal domain in the past? Why would such an expert leave his mark here? Even with the 9 Serenity secret records, breaking through this ingenious array was impossible as he was now. He only got to enter the Lightning Canyon because soaring Qilin used its life to make a hole. As for the other 2 forbidden zones, he wouldn't get in even if he risked his life. Their arrays were intact. Forget about even getting in touch with those sacred beasts, not when he couldn't open the door. Chapter 663, As You Should Have. Chapter 663, As You Should Have. Proofreader, Papatonks. Tracing his fingers over the wall, Zhuofan was mulling over something. Then he opened his eyes wide and 2 golden halos flashed in his right. Divine Eye of the Void Second Stage, Void Annihilation. Bam. The spatial power struck the wall loudly. Then it was over. The barrier didn't even shake. Though it did flash a bit after as if to mock Zhuofan that he was all bark and no bite. Zhuofan sighed. This array is ridiculously strong. Not even Void Annihilation, specialized in breaking arrays, can do a thing to it. He would never get it open as he was now, a mere ant against the world. My only choice is to wait until after I go beyond the mortal domain to try again. Zhuofan gave up the search and was about to return to the valley. However, he made sure to spruce this place up with how messy it was. And so, without further ado, he picked the walls clean of any and all sacred stones. By using shift now and then, Zhuofan popped all over the mountain as he avoided the hundreds of monitoring arrays. All he left behind was now a bare, dark cave like he was some thief who couldn't get enough. It was a good thing the exalted double dragons didn't see him, or they'd be spitting blood right about now. Those sacred stones were tens of times the reward the double dragon gathering offered the 9 sects this time. It took 1,000 years to form and yet they were gone just like that. May you rot in hell, Zhuofan. How fortunate indeed, the 2 exalted were oblivious. Of course, Zhuofan could never let them know, though his wounded right arm was a giveaway. Zhuofan frowned and held it close. It was its first wound and he was a little worried. In the last few fights he had, no one could even scratch it, so coming out wounded all of a sudden would definitely attract the exalted's gazes. That'll be bad for sure. Squinting, Zhuofan was pondering on a solution. Whoosh. An hour later, Zhuofan reappeared in the valley. Alas, gone was the natural beauty and lush scenery, now covered in ever-flowing blood that gave it a nasty stench. One should not forget the constant symphony of wails and cackles that accompanied such a view. It brought this work of art to life. Bang. Don't hit me, please. I give. Just let me go. Damn you. Now you know when to surrender? What were you doing before then? Where'd your arrogance go? What about yesterday's cockiness? Hi, if I don't set you straighter than an arrow now, then I'm no demon-scheming sex disciple. Kuei Lang's laughter echoed through the valley, filled with the promise of brutality. Zhuofan looked around and he saw punches and kicks raining down on one helpless victim. Kuei Lang, and the rest were dishing out all the beatings they could, like a master lashing out at his servant. As for the one who wailed beneath their feet, that was Ren Kong. Yue and the girl stood aside with a thick, loathing gaze on their faces. When they noticed Zhuofan, they bowed. Steward Zhuo, welcome back. Did you get the prick? Zhuofan asked. The girls turned to the others and nodded. Bai Lian bowed a bit as she reported. Steward Zhuo, heaven-trailing sex disciples have all been killed, except Ren Kong based on his status. We can't kill him. So we captured him, sealed his cultivation, and let the others thrash him until now. As you should have. Ren Tsong can't be killed, or it will force heaven-trailing sect to desperate action. Zhuofan nodded, then he showed a nasty smile, though that doesn't mean we shouldn't put him in his rightful place. Since he liked showing off yesterday, let's show him how it's truly done. By the way, how come you aren't enjoying the kicking festival along with those guys? The three girls blushed and fell silent. Zhuofan paused, but then he noticed something. I get it. A lady is to be reserved and shouldn't lower herself to such barbaric and vile actions. But as someone treading the demonic path, you should learn to let go. Come, let's kick him a couple of rounds. It'll make us feel better. Zhuofan waved as he strutted over. But the girls still hung their heads in the same spot. This isn't like you at all. Zhuofan looked back with an odd gaze, especially you Ling. When you were the boss of the labor office, you were more arrogant than ever. Why the sudden shyness over kicking someone? Steward Zhuo, it's better if you see for yourself. Yu Ling blushed harder and pointed at the crowd. Zhuofan was intrigued now. Going over, he looked from behind the kicking frenzy. Brothers, please make way. Allow me to join. Steward Zhuo is back. Make way. Steward Zhuo wants to let off steam. Kuei Lang looked back and his eyes lit up when he saw Zhuofan. The others moved away with bright smiles, letting Zhuofan have his fun. Now the scene was revealed in all its glory to him that had him stumped. He gave an odd look to the rest, especially those shy ladies. Now he got the gist of their reluctance. Ren Tsong was nothing more than a curled-up ball of bruises and wounds, twitching and even whimpering. That wasn't the least of it, though. He was stripped of clothes and blood was also gathering underneath him. Zhuofan couldn't help sneering at them. You should know not to take it too far in your games. You even stripped him naked. He is, after all, the young master of the heaven-trailing sect. Doing this in front of thousands of people, he won't have the shame to get out of his room. That's just what I wanted. I bet he won't be able to get out of his home even back at his sect. Kuei Lang snickered. He pointed at the blood under Ren Tsong and followed the trail of blood. Look, Steward Zhuo. Zhuofan did look and was speechless before crying out, you sure have unique tastes. He gave them a funny look, then gave a loathing handshake. Next time don't talk to me. I'm not a sicko but a perfectly normal human being. No wonder even Yu Ling with her nasty temper stood behind. You guys just aren't normal. The three girls from afar shook and covered their ears, trying anything to stop hearing his words. The curled-up Ren Tsong twitched on cue and his sobbing increased. Kuei Lang's face twitched. Steward Zhuo, who do you take us for? We're not sick, at least not to that degree. Didn't we vent for you? The prick had gone overboard yesterday, so we used a club too. Kuei Lang lifted a bloody wooden stick. Zhuofan hurriedly held his nose and jumped back a couple of steps. He glared at them in disgust. Put that away, you filthy animals. Animals, woo. Ren Tsong shook as he cried. For the first time ever he agreed with Zhuofan. Giving him a long look, Zhuofan shook his head, sympathizing with him. Then he turned to Kuei Lang and the others, barking, you're the ones who've gone overboard. Ever heard the saying, death before dishonor? The guys were stumped. They did not get Zhuofan. Didn't they do what he asked? Why was he angry? Ren Tsong lifted his wretched and crying face and gave Zhuofan a strange look. Was he the rescuer among this band of scumbags? However, Zhuofan's next line made his mouth twitch. Couldn't you have just gotten rid of the flesh and taken a round with his soul? That kind of pain is the most exquisite. Moreover, it's far less nasty and messy. I should have known that all vile demons are the same, Ren Song thought. With a plop, the club fell to the ground. Zhuofan spoke with deep loathing. The others were stumped for a moment, then cackled. That's the Steward Zhuo we know. Even if left alive, it won't do without scarring him good. You're the best team leader ever. Kuei Lang snickered and patted his chest. Rest assured, sir. We shall have no compassion, no shred of sympathy, and we'll be sure to make him pay. Thrashing him was going too easy on him. It's just that you said we should take our sweet time, so there's plenty of stuff we haven't yet tried, ha ha ha. I told you to take your time so you could buy me time. It wasn't so you could turn him into your punching bag. Then again, the result ain't half bad. Recalling his haul, Zhuofan grinned. Then he looked at the shivering mess on the ground, afraid the act was about to resume, and Zhuofan shook his head. This beating will leave a deep trauma in Ren Song's psyche. He's done for. Well, not my fault he had to prance in my face. Hold on. Zhuofan squinted suddenly. Then he looked at his right hand. Chapter 664, Respect. Chapter 664, Respect. Proofreader, Papatonks. Alright. Brothers, get rid of his body and let's have a go with his soul. One last push and we're done for today. Guihu looked at everyone. He got Zhuofan's implied meaning and acted accordingly. With a nod, everyone returned to Ren Song with a sinister smile. Ren Song was so scared he was shaking like a leaf. However, with a spatial ripple as the only sign, a white pillar sprouted in front of everyone. At the same time, an aged voice echoed, "All right kids, that's enough playing around. The 6 hours are up. The team battle between Demon Scheming Sect and Heaven Trailing Sect is over." Over? Isn't it too fast? Kuei Lang looked baffled. We still haven't destroyed this prick's body. How come it's over when we're just getting started? The others' interest fell at this point since the time was up. Zhuofan snickered at Ren Song's scarlet butt and added, "Good things never last long. Now that the time is up, we must abide by Double Dragon Gathering's rules and stop. When it's all said and done, Brother Ren, you are still the young master of the Heaven Trailing Sect, the head of the Tianyu's 3 guardian sections. We're rivals on the battlefield but friends outside of it. Friendships come first and rivalry second. Do you think you can make it back, or do you need me to get someone to help you?" Hypocrite. Every face in the audience twitched, scoffing at him on the inside. They bore witness to the true essence of a demonic cultivator, cruel to no end and a hypocrite to the core. And Zhuofan seemed to be the culmination of all evil. Ren Song's face sank, silently taking out a shirt from his ring to put it on. Then he barely got his feet under him. He clenched his ash cheeks as he wiggled towards the saving light, soon vanishing. Looking at each other, Zhuofan and Kuei Lang laughed at his expense. The girls only blushed harder and glared at them with a shake of their heads. Zhuofan's gang followed into the light right after. Their vision shifted from the mountains to the Double Dragon Manor's arena. Yet the welcoming committee was not in the least bit happy, showering them in scornful looks rather than applauses. The team battle between Demon Scheming Sect and Heaven Trailing Sect was not as intense as the crowd hoped. Instead, it was completely one-sided. And at Zhuofan's behest, it devolved even more into a sick chase for torture and pain. No, a sick game is more accurate. Because Heaven Trailing Sect's people weren't killed but toyed with instead. If one could still call it that, this fight was nothing more than a show of Demon Scheming Sect's endless capacity for brutality and savagery. Heaven Trailing Sect's young master Ren Song would have gone through even more cruelty if not for that title shielding him from death. Not like this outcome was any better. Shuddering, Ren Song, with Elder Chi's support, stood opposite of Demon Scheming Sect's team. But his head was still lowered, fear having twisted his character from an overly proud man to the shell he was now. He was unable even to look his torturers in the eye. Elder Chi saw his young master's appearance and gnashed his teeth in hatred, glaring at those demons. Not like Zhuofan and company. Ever cared. They still bore that twisted smile from before. Bring it if you dare. The judge's cold eyes swept both sides as he spoke. In this team battle between Demon Scheming Sect and Heaven Trailing Sect, the former had sent in 10 people and 10 returned while the latter had sent 10 and only 1 returned, a battle won by an absolute margin. Demon Scheming Sect, do you wish to keep challenging? Your next opponent is the second place in the middle three sects, Demon Soul Sect. Damn right we are. Zhuofan blurted out without even thinking. Judged had expected this kind of answer and continued, then you are free to decide whether it will be right now or after a rest of 3 days. We didn't even break a sweat. We fight now, of course. Zhuofan snickered. The judge nodded and turned to Demon Soul Sect. Do you accept the challenge? If you don't, it will automatically declare Demon Scheming Sect as the winner and you the loser. Han Yunfeng squinted in thought. Zhuofan paused, giving him a long look. Didn't he say he'll give up earlier? Why the hesitation? We accept. However, at this moment, Demon Soul Sect suddenly decided to fight. Turning to Zhuofan, Han Yunfeng was filled with battle intent. The best choice is not to fight, but it will only leave us with regret. But don't think for a second you can humiliate us as you did to Heaven Trailing Sect. Demon Soul Sect is filled with battle demons. We'll rather die than be shamed. Humph, we'll just see about that. Wuxia snorted in contempt but was stopped by Zhuofan. Zhuofan gave him a long look and nodded, good, but you better come prepared. We're not ones to go easy. Humph, we don't need your pity. Han Yunfeng scoffed. Zhuofan's nasty grin resurfaced, turning to his team. Demon Soul Sect is unlike the Heaven Trailing Sect. They won't balk under fear. We can't mess around with them and have to take them seriously. But they only have 2 ethereal stage experts. Why so serious? Kuei Lang paused and gave the opponent an odd stare. Zhuofan smiled, look at their eyes and you'll see they have made peace with death. You might want to have fun but they are serious. They won't let it go your way. That is why it's better to face them head-on and give them proper respect. They have come to the gathering fully aware that they might never return and are ready to go all out if they do, the true spirit of a cultivator. They are nothing like kicking around some wastrels. We need to act according to our opponents, some are to be toyed with while others should be shown respect. Startled, the gang turned in Demon Soul Sect's direction. Sure enough, although they were around the level of the Heaven Trailing Sect, they were determined to see this fight through one way or the other. Despite witnessing how they trashed Heaven Trailing Sect, they still showed no fear. They really must be taken seriously. Kuei Lang took a deep breath and nodded. His face was solemn. Looking at them, they were suddenly reminded of themselves from before. If not for Zhuofan bumping their strength, they would probably be at the level of Demon Soul Sect and could only throw their measly lives away in this double dragon gathering. They all let out a sigh of lament. The judge turned from one team to another. Disciples, please enter the Sumeru dimension. The second challenge of the middle 3 sects challenge round begins. Zhuofan led his team towards the gateway. Han Yunfeng followed as well. Whether intentionally or not, Zhuofan paused for Han Yunfeng's team to catch up. Just like that, the two walked abreast, entering the valley simultaneously. The prick sure has his charm, not always an insufferable bastard. Wu Qingqiu couldn't help but smile. Yen Mo's eyes shook at the side and he had to nod. Indeed, Demon Scheming Sect is at its peak, and he should be brash and wild. But when he entered the valley, he chose to wait for Han Yunfeng to catch up and go in at the same time. It is a sign of respect. That is true. Respect me and I shall do the same. Insult me and I'll make you pay 1,000 times over. It seems to me the fact that he drove Demon Scheming Sect into butchering Heaven Trailing Sect is justifiable. But all we saw in that battle was Demon Scheming Sect's cruelty and not Heaven Trailing Sect's arrogance. That is why we all labeled the Demon Scheming Sect's men as thugs. This is why demon cultivators earned their bad name. Ha! What a world. Eyeing him, Yen Mo nodded. Who'd have thought a righteous disciple would know the toils of us demonic cultivators? Haha, it's because I'm a righteous cultivator that I need to have tolerance. Demonic cultivators are paranoid yet not necessarily wrong. I will not be prejudiced. Wu Qingqiu chuckled and said to Yen Mo, by the way, I don't find this Zhuofan that unreasonable. Just that he acts differently depending on the people and situations, while also a bit heavy-handed. You said he almost got you killed. How did you manage to piss him off? Well, it's none of your business. Yen Mo turned red and shifted his head away. Wu Qingqiu snickered at his reaction. Demonic cultivators love to make a scene, are narrow-minded, and must have what they want. Therefore when the two of them meet, sparks fly. Sigh, while righteous cultivators love to don the mask of hypocrisy. That should level things out, right? Wu Qingqiu shook his head at this thought. Demons are frank and irritable while the just are fake and calm. Though who can tell who is the demon and who is just? Meanwhile, when the two teams entered the valley, they stood across from each other. Zhuofan jumped and landed behind his team. Han Yunfeng and the others frowned. Zhuofan, however, smiled. I'll say it again, who can get on my level? Pass all 9 of them. Then you can face me. Han Yunfeng's eyelid twitched and he stared at Zhuofan furiously. Chapter 665. Round Robin. Chapter 665. Round Robin. Proofreader, Papatonks. That's odd. How come the prick is up to his old tricks and won't fight this time either? Wu Qingqiu's side was puzzled as they watched Zhuofan. Hadn't he always treated Demon Soul Sect with respect? Why the acting? Why the antagonistic display? By not fighting in a team battle, he clearly looked down on them, holding them in contempt. His action was a hard and cold slap to Han Yunfeng's team's face. Leaving the slapping aside, why lift their hopes just now only to knock them down again? Just what is that prick thinking? They would never have guessed that it wasn't that Zhuofan did not want to fight. It was because he couldn't. His right hand got hurt from the brief encounter with the sacred sword. If misfortune had it that he exposed it, the exalted double dragons would see it and he'd be finished. As for his left, it was nowhere near that strong. Favoring his weak left instead of that strong right would incur the same suspicion. So the best way to avoid it all was to show off and stay out of it. If Demon Soul Sect had just forfeited and let me fight Sword God Sects when Tao strayed out, then with his strength similar to a superior 3 sects disciple, it would fit my plan perfectly. Then I wouldn't have to hide from anyone and not be so passive. But just what the hell got into Demon Soul Sect all of a sudden? While I do admire their guts, they're just too weak. I can't fake it with these weaklings. It'll only get seen through. The only choice is staying still. Scratched his nose, Zhuofan sighed inwardly. Han Yunfeng witnessed his action and was fuming mad, gnashing his teeth in hatred. What the hell's the meaning of this? I get you looked down on us, but did you have to do it in front of everyone? Won't you even give us a few moves? Since you're so stuck up, what's with the show of respect from before and walking side by side? Are you toying with us? Han Yunfeng glared and said, Zhuofan, I will make you fight. Humph, to fight our steward Zhua, you'll have to go through me first. Qi Changlong stood in Han Yunfeng's way. This is a team battle, but we won't take advantage of your weakness and will go one-on-one. If you have what it takes to beat our 6 ethereal stage experts, then there will be no one to stop you from fighting Steward Zhua. What, a round robin of 1 against 6? Third young Master Han cursed, you have no shame at all. My brother is in the 2nd layer of the ethereal stage while just 3 of you are in the 3rd layer. Why not ask him to stand still so you can beat him? Quiet, brother. Han Yunfeng cut off the 3rd young Master Han's rant. If it's a team battle with only 2 ethereal stage experts, they could have 2 of theirs hold us back while the rest would kill our teammates. Then it will turn into 6 versus 2. How long do you think we will hold on then? 3rd young Master Han paused, then let out a long sigh. Han Yunfeng's eyelid twitched and said, that's why this round robin looks like 1 against 6. The fights will never be one-on-one. This is in our favor. I accept. Great, then let's go. Qi Changlong walked forward. Giving Zhuofan a look from beyond the others, Han Yunfeng's eyes narrowed. His body shook, and with a reverberating roar, a blue hundreds of meters tall winged lion appeared in a flash of light. With its appearance, the temperature dropped sharply, and a biting wind formed that chilled one to the bone. The crowd cried out. That's Han Yunfeng's soul? At once the audience was boiling. Everyone knew the soul was an ethereal stage expert's strongest weapon but also its weakness. So unless they had no choice, the fight was to the death, or they did not fear a heavy injury, the average man would not take it out. Since if the soul was finished, so were you. So even in the middle 3 sects round, the audience had not once seen ethereal stage experts taking out their souls. Even when Ren Tsong was being pummeled from all around, he would rather have his cultivation sealed than show his soul in fear of having it crushed. No one imagined that in the 2nd stage of the middle 3 sects challenge round, Han Yunfeng would actually lay his soul bare at the very start. He was ready to go all out. Elder brother? His younger brothers cried in panic. Han Yunfeng waved them not to worry, his face hard. They are all tough opponents. I have to go all out from the start, or if the time drags out, it will work against me. Ha, what a brave man you are, eldest young master of Demon Soul sect. Then allow me to accompany you with my own soul. Chi Changlong laughed and felt as if he had met a kindred spirit. His body shook and yellow light spilled from him. In a blink, a huge seal of 60 meters appeared overhead, giving an oppressive feeling. Wu Qingqiu's brow shook and he cried, "It's actually a rarely seen tool soul, the seal of upheaval." Correct. Souls are commonly divided into beast souls, elemental souls, and domain souls. As for this tool soul, despite being rare, it is on the same level as a beast soul. And Han Yunfeng's soul is that of ascending howling lion. Of bitter cold and extreme yin, the opposite of the seal's extreme yang. This makes it that the match will be decided on the strength of their souls. Yen Mo nodded as he analyzed. Yilin looked from the side, bored. It's Han Yunfeng's win. Why? Startled, the two turned to him. Reason dictated it should be Chi Changlong who won since he had the higher cultivation. Yilin huffed, because he stakes his life. Bam. The loud sound came just as Yilin finished. Ascending howling lion and the seal of upheaval clashed in a terrifying rumble. However, in that short exchange, the seal of upheaval had 5 claw marks, with ice spreading around them. Chi Changlong shook all over and spat blood. At the same time he took back his soul. He cupped his hands in admiration. Respect. You're too kind. Han Yunfeng returned his gesture even as his brow was soaked. Should this be his victory? He was, in fact, the more injured party of the two. Zhuo Fan's brow shook, and he admired Han Yunfeng. The kid is a damn feisty guy. He's unlike those fake young masters from sects and even staked his life on the first attack. His upbringing must have had a heavy role to play in it. Demon Soul sect is remarkable. Wu Qingqiu's brow shook as well. How can there be a fight like this in this day and age? As the forefathers say, pride comes before the fall. Even in a life and death struggle, one holds back some energy just in case, to change the tides and win or escape. But this guy had put up all he had and more, cutting off all his paths. If he couldn't have shaken off his opponent in the first strike, he would have been dead by now. The guy is ruthless. He is staking his life just for the chance to fight him. How can you guys even understand him? Yilin mocked. He has to fight 6 people even in rounds. Even if he comes out victorious, he will be exhausted to death. The only way to save energy is to go out in full force. While he gives his life in every exchange, his opponent doesn't have the nerve to meet him. This leaves him with a margin to win and conserve his strength. But even so, one cannot say just how much energy he'd have left in the end. By the way, Yenemo, you said you wanted to spar with senior brother. But do you have the courage and thirst as he does? Yilin asked Yenemo. Yenmo's brow shook as he watched the next fight. This time Bai Lian went forth only to be defeated in one strike. But even though he saw Han Yunfeng panting, Yenemo shook his head with no admiration for the man. This guy is consumed with cultivation. Doesn't the demonic path contain obsession as well? This is the road he is walking. Off. Despite having only struck twice in the valley, Han Yunfeng was breathing heavily, his head soaked in sweat. His brothers rushed over to help him. Brother, are you alright? Let's just forget it. They're making it hard for you and toy with you. With the way you are now, what's the point of defeating the 6 of them when you won't be able to even stand? This is pointless. With a slight twitch of his eyebrows, Han Yunfeng slowly looked at Zhuo Fan, only to see his solemn face and bland look. As if he looked down on him. Taking risks despite knowing it would fail was useless. But when Tao's words came to him, that cultivation meant going against the natural order. If he lost this chance to fight the strongest, he would feel regret for the rest of his days. Han Yunfeng once again straightened his back and took a deep breath as he stared at Zhuo Fan. Even if you do not put me in your eyes, mine will always be on you. My cultivation will never stop. Yes, that's the way, demonic young master. When Tao spoke as he witnessed the fights. This fight isn't to defeat him but to prove you fear no challenge. This is the only way you can go further. Xie Qianshang next to him looked at Han Yunfeng and then at Zhuo Fan. He nodded. Just like when he set Zhuo Fan as his rival, it wasn't to surpass him per se, but for himself to never stop pushing forward. Chapter 666, Soul Burst. Chapter 666, Soul Burst. Proofreader, Papatonks. Young Master Han, your next opponent shall be me. I won't be like the 2 you faced and won't hold back at all. Please be ready. Lucia walked before Han Yunfeng with a leisurely gait, bearing a twisted smile. Glaring at him lightly, Han Yunfeng said, I know. These days have shown me that you are the foulest person of all demon-scheming sect, ha. You're asking for it? Lucia's face fell, a bone-chilling bloodthirst flashing in his eyes. Then his body shook and a huge green spider appeared in front. The green gas it released spread along the ground like a poisonous net. Han Yunfeng's brow shook and turned serious. He'd seen Lucia use this move before with Mystical Heaven Sect, to cut the enemy off from all directions. In other words, Lucia planned on surrounding him instead of attacking him head-on, to finish in one move. In this way he became passive, making his plan to save energy fail here. He was sure this would become a stalling battle to wear him out instead. If it were just a single fight this wouldn't matter. But in a round-robin he could not let this happen. Qi Changlong couldn't help but sigh, why is Lucia doing this? For young Master Han to fight all 6 of us is incredibly brave. Even if we are not exactly honorable, there's no reason to take it so far. You know as well his character. It's obvious one strike can win this. It's easy to win or give him a pass, but he would rather toy with him. Bai Lian scoffed, he plans on dragging this on, something Han Yunfeng could never accept. Qi Changlong sighed and shook his head. Meanwhile Han Yunfeng looked around the spreading poison, and with a roar the ascending howling lion flapped its wings. The fierce gale slammed into the ground, turning the area around him into sparkling blue ice crystals. It was then that the spreading poison stopped. The moment the green gas touched the crystals, it would stop in its tracks. Han Yunfeng shouted, and ascending howling lion shot for the green spider, going all out once more. Humph, useless. I'm not going to take you head-on. Lucia snickered and made a sign. The green spider scattered like before into thick mist. The thousands upon thousands of tiny spiders raced for Han Yunfeng under the cover of the mist. Whoosh! Ascending howling lion's strike hit nothing, but it turned back and went straight for Lucia. Ignoring the incoming flood of spiders, he actually opted to go down with his enemy. Han Yunfeng is truly ruthless. Meeting someone like Lucia who wants to exhaust him, he instead stakes his life going all out. Wu Qingqiu sighed. Yan Mo nodded, the kid's obsessed and I like it. I hope to see him in the Double Dragon manner. For a person from middle 3 sects and just a second layer of ethereal stage as well, it will be hard to enter Double Dragon manner. It's all up to the exalted. Yan Mo and Wu Qingqiu turned to the highest seats in the audience, where the exalted Saturday. Lucia looked at the lion with a smug grin. Haha, the more anxious you are to end this, the more you'll tire. Lucia made another sign, and lines of green flashed all over the lion. Just like a net, those lines connected and trapped it. At the same time, the green pattern on the ground released green smoke connecting to the net. Roar. With a mighty roar, the lion found it could not advance at all, stuck in place. Grinning, Lucia gave Han Yunfeng a cocky look. Young Master Han, it's your bad luck to have met me. Do you know how a spider feeds? It traps its prey in a web, letting it struggle and beg for death, then slowly eats it alive. This is quite a lengthy process too. You were rash for a quick battle, but then you got me. Hi. Humph, that remains to be seen if your net is that tough. Han Yunfeng made a sign as his brow sweated harder. The lion roared as it struggled and it trembled. Uncaring about the lion's actions, Lucia grinned, poison explosion. Boom. The lion's body kept popping with great bangs sounding through the air. Han Yunfeng shook with every blow and even coughed up crimson blood. Brother? Third young Master Han and second young Master Han cried out in panic. The flying lion was Han Yunfeng's soul. Its wounds meant Han Yunfeng's soul wounds. It was such a heavy and sharp pain few could endure. The two gnashed their teeth and looked at Lucia in hatred. But Lucia only laughed. Young Master Han, your demon soul sect's eldest young master, so I can't take your life, but you should know when to give. It's time for you to admit your defeat to me. This is as far as you go. Han Yunfeng was Demon Soul Sect's young sect leader, and defeating him would give him great merit back at the sect. Lucia was blinded by greed, so he did not follow in Qi Changlong and Bai Lian's footsteps in fighting head-on. Victory and merit were worth more than anything. He would be willing to do anything as long as it would help his ascent. Han Yunfeng's face twitched in pain, but he actually mocked Lucia. Kid, you're not worthy. We'll just see about that. Lucia's face fell and his sign changed. The thousands of tiny spiders charged for Han Yunfeng, but they froze in place when they touched the blue curtain of light. Just then Lucia shouted, and the tiny spiders exploded, breaking through the blue curtain and allowing the spiders behind them to advance. Han Yunfeng was now at his most dangerous. With a string of constant explosions, the barrier of light shrank more and more until it was gone. Lucia trapped his flying lion and explosions also assaulted it. He was stuck, unable to neither attack nor defend. Han Yunfeng's face was heavy, feeling the sharp pain stinging his soul. He paled and Lucia grinned as he changed his signs. The spiders drew nearer with every step, every second, and with them, Lucia's web closed around him. Everyone, including the audience, was at the edge of their seats for Han Yunfeng's fate. Third young Master Han shouted, "Brother, just give up. You defeated 2 experts and are weary. It's no loss even if you concede. This isn't about reputation, but whether I can walk further on the path of cultivation." Han Yunfeng's eyelids shook, looking in Zhuo Fan's direction. His eyes flashed and roared as his aura exploded once more. "Brother?" His brothers cried out in worry. "What's he up to?" Wu Qingqiu was startled, having a bad feeling. "Soul burst." Han Yunfeng made a sign. The trapped flying lion wailed in pain and then exploded. Streams of blue light shot in all directions like a tidal wave. Everywhere and everything froze under a layer of blue crystals. Those spiders were about to explode again, but they froze immediately before shattering to dust. Lucia spat blood, looking at the light show slowly diminishing. Followed by a roar, a lion without wings burst out and came for him. The sudden impact caught Lucia off guard, knocking him flying, trailing blood behind him. This was not as light as before, with just his soul a little bit shaken up. This time his entire innards were crushed, and there was a high chance his body was ruined. However, the people did not care about him, not even demon scheming sects members. In their eyes, there was a lion that had lost its wings, and despite its thin state, it held its pride as it lay on the ground. Chapter 667, Man on the Path. Chapter 667, Man on the Path. Proofreader, Papatonks. Young Master Han, why did you do that? Watching the weak and frail lion lying on the ground since it struck Lucia, when Tao shook his head, "If I had known you were so obstinate, I wouldn't have said what I had. Seeing you fall in such a plight feels like I harmed you myself." Xie Tianshang's eyes shook as he stared at the scene for a long time before sighing. "I had spent my life only on martial arts, yet not even that can compare to Han Yunfeng's accomplishment. Soul burst, a desperate and last move to injure your opponent by exploding your soul. Unless it is the last resort, no one would ever use it, not when the recovery is painstakingly difficult." Even though Han Yunfeng had blown up his soul's wings, the damage to his soul is heavy and has also crippled his future. Putting the cart before the horse. Yan Mo watched from above with a sullen look. He was angry but not at the result and more about his inability to fight. Didn't he challenge Zhuo Fan so he could go further down the path of cultivation? Now that his soul is crippled, what was the point? Wu Qingqiu nodded, lamenting at the pity. Only Yi Lin disdained, looking at the lion in admiration. "What do you ignorant youngsters know? The soul is important, but the damage isn't permanent, just somewhat annoying. If my guess is right, Double Dragon Manor, Zhuo Fan and even me can all heal him. But the step he had taken today shall carry him for miles. The road of cultivation is fraught with obstacles. If one knows every effort was useless and stopped, that is as far as he went. But he has achieved his goal just because he chose to stake his life in this matter despite the obvious outcome. Even if he didn't get to fight with Zhuo Fan, his heart has grown to new bounds." The two squinted, watching Yi Lin in shock. "Are soul wounds that meager anyone can heal? Double Dragon Manor, I get it, since they're the top in Western lands, but even you and Zhuo Fan are such miracle workers?" Yi Lin noticed their gazes but said nothing. As the dust cleared, Han Yunfeng dragged his even more weary body, looking with a pale face at the bloody Lucia on the ground. "I won. This is the third match." Lucia gnashed his teeth and found he could not get up. All that was left was the regret in his eyes. He would never have imagined Han Yunfeng would go to such extremes. "I just said I didn't want your life, so why did you have to go as far as wound your soul to win? Lunatic, you're a true madman." At Lucia's unreconciled face, Han Yunfeng grinned, then he turned to Demon Scheming Sect, the next challenger. "Brother?" His 2 younger brothers shook, wanting to dissuade him. But seeing his determined look, they gave up. They knew that once their big brother was serious about something, there was no changing his mind. Demon scheming sects team's hearts shook and looked from the frail lion to the weary Han Yunfeng. They held him in much more respect than before. Han Yunfeng would never achieve his goal, yet he fought regardless of the futility of his efforts. It was this determination that won them over. It wasn't just them. The entire audience was filled with respect. Gui Hu walked forward. "It's my turn. Please instruct me." "Good, begin." Han Yunfeng strained to keep his body upright as he shouted. His lion also struggled to stand, roaring toward Gui Hu. Despite how exhausted he was, his battle spirit never waned. Gui Hu said nothing as he walked to Han Yunfeng. Second young Master Han was tense, worried about his big brother's fate. Han Yunfeng fixed him in his eyes. He knew well that there was no way he could fight an ethereal stage expert in the state he was in. But what amazed him was that Gui Hu had no killing intent, as if he was only walking over. Han Yunfeng frowned and snapped, "What's the meaning of this? Are you saying you can take me with just a finger?" Gui Hu did not reply. As he reached him, under the watch of thousands of pairs of eyes, Gui Hu took Han Yunfeng's fist, struck his own chest with it 3 times and then walked away. Startled, Han Yunfeng was stumped. The audience was baffled. At this time, Kuei Lang laughed as he came over, copying Gui Hu by hitting his chest with Han Yunfeng's fist for 3 punches. "My turn, he." Kuei Lang swaggered off. "Hey, what's the meaning of this?" Han Yunfeng asked. Yu Ling smirked and came over. "What's so hard to understand? You just beat them so the next one took their place. Aren't you challenging 6 ethereal stage experts? I'm the last one." "Wait, you're..." Han Yunfeng had a weird taste in his mouth. "Stop whining. It's just your fist, Yu Ling got before him and was about to do the same, but then she realized something. She looked at her perky chest and blushed, then waved. "Never mind. I'm the weakest of the 6. Since you beat the rest, I'll just admit defeat." Yu Ling left with a wave as she gracefully walked away. Han Yunfeng was left stumped, his heart filled with complex emotions. "Gui Hu, what the hell are you guys playing at?" Zhuo Fan chuckled. Gui Hu shrugged. "Steward Zhuo, you saw it yourself. I took 3 fists of his and lost." Yep, me too." Kuei Lang bobbed his head. Zhuo Fan shook his head. 3 fists to the chest? Are you guys swearing an oath of brotherhood here? Since you all admit defeat, it seems I'll have to step in. Zhuo Fan stepped lightly, coming before Han Yunfeng. His eyes lit up with battle intent. "I've waited so long for this. Haha, I always keep my word. Since you reached me, you have the right to hang out. Go ahead." Zhuo Fan smiled. Han Yunfeng cupped his hands in glee and began weaving signs. Seeing their big brother shine again, the 2 younger brothers were filled with pride. They also sent grateful looks to Gui Hu and the others. "Thank you, brothers. Just showing our respect is all. Since your brother wants to fight Steward Zhuo with such passion, the least we can do is help out a little." Gui Hu's gang hit their chest in reply. However, just then there was a light hum and a flash of light. The judge's aged voice came from outside. "The 6 hours are up. Both sides cease fighting and come out. If you fight again, I'll consider it a grudge fight." "What?" Han Yunfeng shook and was unwilling. How can it be so fast? Then his eyes went dark and collapsed. Zhuo Fan's right sprung into action. But then he moved it back and used the left one instead to hold him steady. "Brother Han, we'll fight next time." Han Yunfeng shuddered and turned his white face to Zhuo Fan. "You'll still fight me?" "Of course, this is my promise. Since this time we can't, there's always next time." Zhuo Fan spoke with determination. Han Yunfeng's perked into a smile and his eyes closed. He was out cold. His soul, the lion, also vanished back into his body. Holding Han Yunfeng's body, Zhuo Fan was the first to go through the light. The 2 sex teams exchanged glances and followed after. Only Wuxia, in his heavily wounded state, had to be carried out by Qi Changlong. The teams were back in the arena and were welcomed by a resounding round of applauses. Unlike the first challenge against Heaven Trailing Sect, the Demon Scheming Sect still held their absolute advantage, but they had a complete attitude change. Instead of abusing their opponent, they showed respect. Bar a particular someone, of course. This led to everyone having a whole new respect for Demon Scheming Sect. After looking at both sects, the judge coughed for silence and was about to announce the results when Zhuo Fan stepped forward. "Elder, 10 people went into Sumeru Dimension and 10 have returned. Both sides have 1 seriously injured member. It should be a draw." Well, the judge was taken aback and nodded. Since you are willing to step back, I will help you. This challenge is a draw. This statement left the crowd in shock, all looking at Zhuo Fan. Reason dictated that Demon Scheming Sect held the ultimate advantage and was the real winner. But Zhuo Fan was willing to give up victory and give his opponent the greatest respect. In an instant, the people were in awe of Zhuo Fan's style, and the Han brothers appreciated him too. Exalted He ran up above, nodded, "The brat is walking the path, a true rarity. Few demonic cultivators have ever risen above their demonic nature." True. However, it's not just him. Haha has also grown, haha. Exalted by Mei chuckled and added another name to the list in 3 strong characters. That you're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.